Ladies and gents, boys and girls, welcome. Monday, August the 14th, 2023. Hope you're all doing well. Chris Phillips here, your host of the Daily Crow of the Spurs Up Show. We have got a lot to get into here on this Monday in case you missed it. And we're going to start here with a full breakdown of the AP Top 25. Your South Carolina Gamecocks check in at number 23 in the preseason AP Top 25. Who is missing from this Top 25, you may ask? The North Carolina Tar Heels, who everyone assumed would be ranked. North Carolina picking up 8 votes. They fall in the others receiving votes category. Wow, I am surprised. I am stunned. We'll get into all that and more here in just a second. But again, guys, thank you all so much for tuning in. I see Austin Gregory checking in from Beach Island, South Carolina. What's going on? Great to have you. Jeremy Smith is in Graniteville. Jeremy, what are you, right off exit 11, I'd assume, right? Right down the road from old Sage Valley Golf Club. Humbucker 75, John Edward, C. Youngblood, Travie, Brennan M., Braddock 843, Mark Anderson, Roman Pageant. What is going on? Also, those in the Big Cock Club Discord, head over to the TDC Questions channel. The TDC Questions channel, to be sure your questions are answered there. Again, we have got a jam-packed show, a lot to get into, guys. Of course, in our third hour, we have our Q&A Power Hour. We'll take all of your questions, your comments, your calls as well at 843-790-3377. That is 843-790-3377. In our second hour, Mark Rogers is busy reacting on his own live show to the AP Top 25. So in our second hour, we'll switch things up a bit. Gordy, mispronouncing his name. Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. He will join the show to talk all things Gamecocks, SEC, college football ahead of the start of the 2023 season. And guys, we have got a jam-packed first hour. We're talking AP Top 25. We're talking fall scrimmage number 1 on Saturday. And we begin to dive into our position unit preview series, talking Gamecocks linebackers heading into the 2023 football season. So with that being said, let's dive into it, guys. The AP Top 25 has officially released ahead of the 2023 football season, and it goes like this. Coming in at number 1, no surprise, the Georgia Bulldogs. At number 2, how about TCU being preseason ranked the number 2 team in the country? This almost doesn't feel right. Is this correct? Are these the correct rankings here? They have to be, because the AP Top 25 released these. And as you click the link, nope, here we go. Okay, it has been updated. Look at me overreacting. I apologize, guys. So that was the old AP Top 25. Wow, I am silly. Okay, so when you click the link on the tweet that they dropped when it said breaking news, here's the AP Top 25, it took you to last year's Top 25. Now they have it updated. Okay, this makes a lot more sense. False alarm. Let's start that over. What an incredibly terrible way to start the show, as I got all your hopes up. South Carolina is not in the AP Top 25. Let's go down the list here. So the latest preseason AP Top 25 has officially been released. This is how it shakes out ahead of kickoff. At number 1, the Georgia Bulldogs, no surprise there. Number 2, the Michigan Wolverines. Number 3, the Ohio State Buckeyes. At number 4, the Alabama Crimson Tide. At number 5, the LSU Tigers. At number 6, the other USC, the Southern Cal Trojans. At number 7, the Penn State Nittany Lions. At number 8, the Florida State Seminoles. At number 9, the Clemson Tigers. At number 10, the Washington Huskies. At number 11, the Texas Longhorns. At number 12, the Tennessee Volunteers. At number 13, the Notre Dame Fighting Irish. At number 14, the Utah Utes. At number 15, the Oregon Ducks. At number 16, the Kansas State Wildcats. I almost forgot their mascot there. Number 17, the TCU Horned Frogs. At number 18, the Oregon State Beavers. At number 19, the Wisconsin Badgers. At number 20, the Oklahoma Sooners check into the top 25. At number 21, the North Carolina Tar Heels. At number 22, the Ole Miss Rebels. Number 23, the Texas A&M Aggies. At number 24, the Tulane Green Wave. And at number 25, the Iowa Hawkeyes. South Carolina finds themselves just on the outside looking in others receiving votes. At number 26, effectively, you have Texas Tech with 101 votes. At number 27, South Carolina receiving 73 votes. Most notably outside of that, UTSA got 64 votes. Arkansas got 22 votes. Kentucky got 14 votes. Auburn got 7 votes. Duke got 4 votes. Mississippi State got 4 votes. Florida got 4 votes. Coastal Carolina got 3 votes. NC State got a vote. Liberty got a vote. So, I'd say somewhat as expected, South Carolina on the outside looking in as they sit ranked 27th effectively in the AP Top 25. And we will start there. You know, guys, I thought the Gamecocks might sneak in at number 24 or number 25 to make week 1 a true top 25 matchup. But unfortunately, that is not what we will get. The North Carolina Tar Heels, of course, as I mentioned, sit 21st, led by Drake May, Mac Brown, and they will come into week 1 as the lone ranked team in that game. You know, guys, I don't get too bothered by preseason top 25 polls. I'm not going to sit here and tell you they mean nothing because the rankings mean so much for things like college football playoff, for bowl games, you know, for a number of different things, perception of your program. And so I'm not going to tell you that AP Top 25 means nothing, but it's not all that important. I'm not totally stunned to see South Carolina just outside of the top 25 because while I feel from the national perspective, even like the SEC-wide perspective, I think there's still a lot of hype around South Carolina. But because of severe roster turnover that took place over the course of the offseason, I think the Gamecocks lost some steam in regards to the hype train over the course of this offseason. Of course, the turnover I'm talking about, Jaheim Bell to Florida State, Jordan Birch to Oregon, Gilbert Edmond to FSU, Marshawn Lloyd to Southern Cal. And while South Carolina picked up other pieces, guys, they are not the nationally known pieces like those are that departed. We all think and know that Trey Knox is going to be a nice player. You know, locally, folks think Joshua Simon is going to be a nice player. Locally, folks think Jaron Willis, Grayson Pup Howard, you know, Desmond Umeozulu, DeCarrion Joyner. They're going to be nice players. Those guys are not national needle movers. And I think for those reasons, I think most view that South Carolina took a hit in the transfer portal, right or wrong, fair or unfair, whatever it might be. I think that's one of the reasons why they are just on the outside looking in. Again, you look at this AP Top 25, Georgia at the top. Nobody is going to argue you there. They got 60 of the first place votes. Michigan at number 2, the creme de la creme of the Big Ten, Ohio State right behind them. I think Alabama at 4 is extremely fair. If anything, I think Bama is a little bit overrated. When you look at the question marks they have at quarterback, defensive side, losing Will Anderson, they're still very, very good. Very, very good. But I think slightly a bit overrated. LSU at number 5. So we've got in the top 5, guys, 3 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams. 3 SEC teams and 2 Big Ten teams. When you think about conference realignment and which conferences run college football, you know, there you go. SEC, Big Ten, they run the ship, if you will. You know, looking the rest of the way, I think it's interesting. Florida State, 1 spot ahead of Clemson. They think the ACC is going to be very, very competitive. The Seminoles are definitely getting the benefit of the doubt going into, what is this, year 4 of Mike Norvell. They are the favorites, it seems, to win the ACC. Texas at number 11. Are they ranked too high? Is Texas back? You're going to have differing opinions there on paper. I think Texas is definitely a top 10 team and a team that's going to fight for the college ball playoff. Tennessee at number 12 with a brand new quarterback. I mean, is that a little bit high? I think we're going to know about Tennessee pretty early on if they're overrated, underrated, just right, what have you. But you lose a lot of the offensive side. Josh Heupel and company getting a lot of benefit of the doubt because of his offensive brand that he's built in Knoxville. The best of the rest, man, you look TCU at 17. They've got a lot to replace. Oregon State at 18. Oklahoma at 20 is really, really intriguing to me with Brent Venables. They bring back Dylan Gabriel, their quarterback. They've got talent, no doubt, but they were so bad defensively a season ago. They were abysmal defensively. We'll see if they can get that fixed under Brent Venables in year 2. Again, North Carolina, 21. Guys, you can say whatever you want. You can say he's overrated. You can call him Drake Mid, but the bottom line is this. His name's Drake May, and he's one of the best quarterbacks in college football. ACC Player of the Year last year. I know they finished up slow, but I think that's why you're seeing UNC get the nod going into this season. I think that's why they're the favorite in the ball game against South Carolina. I think the Drake May factor in having a guy like that at quarterback who's thought to be one of the best quarterbacks in college football entering this year, I think that is a big reason why you see them ranked in the preseason top 25. Ole Miss at number 22. I think that one's a bit interesting. They believe, obviously, in Lane Kiffin. Jackson Dart, we're hearing good things about him. A lot of talent on Ole Miss, and they should be better defensively, I'll say, under a new defensive coordinator. They believe in them on the offensive side and what they're going to do, scoring points, that high-flying offense. Texas A&M being 23rd. How about that? The Texas A&M Aggies, a team that went 5-7 last year. But, you look at the talent. You look on paper. That's a team that should win 9 games, maybe 10 this year. I mean, 8-4 should be the floor for Texas A&M this season, with all the talent they have there. But to put them preseason ranked 23rd, I mean, I'd make them earn it a little bit. Either way, Aggies are 23rd, Tulane 24th, Ole Miss Tulane, I believe it's in week 2. That's a really sneaky good game on the college football slate early in the season. And then Iowa, a team that everybody loves to pick on. They can't score points. Well, they're ranked 25th. So obviously somebody thinks they're worth the crap. And then, of course, guys like we mentioned, South Carolina at 27. It just doesn't stun me a ton. It does not stun me a ton. I thought South Carolina might sneak in at 25th, but I'm not totally shocked. Guys, South Carolina they never get the benefit of the doubt when it comes to these top 25 rankings. And I'll be honest, guys, the Gamecocks, to a degree, have nobody to blame but themselves when it comes to that, because you look at last year, South Carolina wins 4 in a row. Okay, AP top 25, here we come. What do they do that upcoming weekend? They lay an egg against the Missouri Tigers. So I don't blame the AP folks for being hesitant. It's in the history of this program to let down. It's in the history of this program to, when you get to the top 25 and you get to a place of hype and you get to a place of expectations, you fall flat on your face. I'm not telling you that's what's going to happen, but I'm just telling you why I think South Carolina, why they're not looked at favorably in things like the preseason AP top 25, why people don't look at the Gamecocks and say, they're a for sure top 25 team. Then you factor in, of course, like I mentioned, some of the roster turnover. I think there's still a lot of doubts about Spencer Rattler. Now you've got stuff coming out about Juice Wells, the running back position being a question, offensive line being a question, defensive line being a question. I think because of all of those question marks, there are people out there that are still not sold. Again, does it really mean anything? Does the AP top 25, does it make a difference when that game takes place on September the 2nd, when this season gets going? We've seen South Carolina defy the odds as an underdog and being unranked and taking down top 10 teams back-to-back weeks. I can assure you that Shane Beamer and South Carolina do not give a damn about what they are ranked in the top 25, but does not surprise me. And it's unfortunate, too. I will say this. It's unfortunate from the national landscape side of things that with College Game Day going to Charlotte, it's unfortunate it's not a top 25 game. But I tell you this, I think most of Gamecock Nation and probably Shane Beamer and his football team as well, I think they'd probably prefer it be that way. Hey, let's play the underdog. Let's drop our nuts, as Cam Smith said last year. Let's play the underdog. We got nothing to lose. All the pressure is on UNC, and we will bring the heat in week 1. Guys, that being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the convo rolling. We're talking fall camp and Saturday's Scrimmage on the other side of this break. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle doggy ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, August the 14th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, guys, continue to leave us your questions, your comments, your calls, your reactions to everything. South Carolina is officially unranked in the preseason AP Top 25. North Carolina ranked number 21. So South Carolina will effectively be looking for the upset in week 1 in Charlotte to kick off the 2023 football season. Guys, again, I would love to hear from each and every single one of you. 843-790-3377. If you cannot call in that third hour, leave us a voicemail right now. In the next 2 hours, we will play that voicemail in hour number 3, of course. Hour number 2 as well, our good friend Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. We'll talk Gamecocks. We'll talk SEC. We'll talk AP Top 25. Everything you need to know ahead of the 2023 college football season. Guys, let me also remind you, this week, TDC as normal, except on Wednesday. We are hitting the road Wednesday afternoon. So we will rock TDC Wednesday morning, 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. So just plan accordingly, a little morning TDC. Get your coffee out there. We'll rock with the content, and we'll do it that way, noon to 3 p.m. Eastern time every single day other than Wednesday this week. And, of course, the season simulation series continues tonight. We're officially bowl eligible. Beat Vanderbilt last night, 6-4, 4-3 in SEC play. We've got Kentucky tonight, Clemson tomorrow night, 7 o'clock kickoff for both of those games right here on our YouTube page. With that being said, guys, we're keeping the conversation rolling. The pads are popping. Jobs are being won. South Carolina took the field on Saturday for their first scrimmage of fall camp. And there were news. There was tidbits that dropped out of that camp on Saturday. Again, South Carolina taking the field for their first scrimmage of fall. And we'll start with Shane Beamer specifically. And it's a tale as old as time, guys. News dropping out of fall camp. Things start to leak, especially when it comes to the health of the football team and the injury reports surrounding these guys going into week 1. There is a reason why I've said no news is good news. And, of course, over the last couple of days, the chatter has been around, what's the health of this guy? What's the status of this guy going into kickoff? And Shane Beamer, on brand as he is, as we all know and love, makes the statement, I'm going to paraphrase here, it's not DEFCON 3. Guys get banged up, they get hurt, they come back. That's called football. Well, unfortunately, Shane Beamer's words are not going to stop anyone from being concerned about the health of this football team, especially when the status of one of your top playmakers is in question. I think the lead storyline and the lead thing that we probably should all be talking about at this point, not overreacting, but keeping an eye on, what is the status of Juice Wells? I would say the Gamecocks' best playmaker on this football team. I'll tell you guys exactly what I have heard. So it came out about mid last week that Juice, during summer had been training, hurt his foot to a degree, had been wearing a boot, what have you. We didn't start to hear this chatter until a couple of days in a fall camp. And, hey, Juice Wells was absent from practice. Okay, well, he had an exam. Well, Juice Wells was absent again. What's going on? Hey, heard Juice Wells is in a boot. Then I get contacted late last week. And again, I'm not confirming, denying anything. I'm telling you all what I have heard. I'm contacted late last week by multiple different people, by the way, saying that, hey, just so you know, Juice Wells broke his pinky toe during the summer, and he does need surgery, and he will be getting surgery. This is something that's effectively, most likely, going to keep him out week 1 and most likely keep him out until week 3 against the Georgia Bulldogs. Juice Wells did not participate in the scrimmage on Saturday. And as Shane Beamer noted, Juice Wells will not be available for the next week. He will miss fall camp all week this week. Now, does that mean that Juice Wells 100% is not going to play week 1? No, it does not. Because rumors are just that. They're rumors. There is nothing definite. There is nothing that says 100% he will not play. But guys, it is absolutely something to keep an eye on. It is 110% because this is not our first rodeo. And if it is for you, let me explain to you how this typically goes. Player gets injured, coach downplays injury, injury lingers, injury lingers, injury lingers, and before you know it, they've missed 3 or 4 weeks when you thought it was going to be a day-to-day type of deal. I'm not saying that's what's happening here, but we have seen this movie before. Obviously, it is fingers crossed that Juice Wells is okay, that it's no big deal, right? Shane Beamer saying that, hey, Juice Wells assured me that he is going to be ready to go week 1. We know how Juice attacks things and that, we believe that when Juice says he'll be ready, he's going to be ready. But if you listen to what Shane Beamer had to say, guys, he's banking on that Juice Wells is telling him, Coach, I'll be good to go. That's not exactly definitive. That's not exactly, you're telling me 110% that he's going to be ready. I'm not telling you he's going to miss week 1. But you never want to see one of your star players having to sit out an extended period of fall camp because of an injury. Now, if there's anybody out there who can afford to miss the time and come back and pick up right where they left off, it's a guy like Juice Wells. This is a dude, he's a veteran. He and Spencer Rattler have great chemistry. I don't think it's one of those things you really worry about. He's not a guy that's out there, needs to be out there fighting for his job and fighting for reps. He is the undisputed number 1 wide receiver on this football team. But it's just never something you want to hear. And I hope Coach Beamer's right. I hope Juice Wells is right, that he's going to be okay, take a week off, no big deal. But the reports that I've heard, and I'm always going to tell you guys what I hear. I'm not sitting here proclaiming to be the number 1 insider. I'm giving you some crazy scoop. But when I hear things from people that I rely on, that I deem as credible, that I trust, I'm going to tell you what they're saying. And it's multiple people that said, broken pinky toe, he is getting surgery, he will be out more than likely for week 1, which means there's a chance he plays for sure. But all I'm saying is this, no matter whether you think 110% he's going to play or you're skeptical, it's something we should keep an eye on. It is something to follow. This has now become a top storyline. Because, yes, I understand. We'll talk more about it in a couple of weeks. UNC's defense is porous. UNC's defense was abysmal. They couldn't stop anybody last year. But losing Juice Wells, if you don't think that changes the complexion of that game just ever so slightly, you're naive. You're foolish. You're a fool. You're silly. So, let's keep an eye on this. If and when Juice Wells returns to fall camp, what are they saying about him? What's Shane Beamer saying? Is this one of those things that, hey, they'll scrimmage again? I don't think it's this Saturday. I think it's the next Saturday. They'll scrimmage again at some point. Does he play? Is he active? Is he taking reps? Is he on the field? Or is this something that carries over into game week where we're still hearing, hey, Juice Wells is questionable. We don't know his status. We're not sure he can go. It's something to keep an eye on. Again, where there's that much smoke, typically there's some fire. So we'll see. A foot injury too. It's something you don't want to re-aggravate, right? You don't want to re-aggravate this. We all know too well about foot injuries. They've lingered over the years. It's something you definitely want to make sure you take care of. But, we've been hearing for weeks, man, hey, Juice Wells hurt his foot over the summer training. Juice Wells is in a boot. Juice Wells hasn't practiced. Now Juice Wells misses a scrimmage. Now Juice Wells is out for the next week. Maybe he plays, and maybe this is just a dumb offseason storyline, but keep an eye on it because it may be more than some folks are giving it credit for. Moving on, positive on the injury front, Trey Knox set to return to practice today per Shane Beamer, which is a great sign because we heard last week that he had hurt. Anytime you talk about a knee injury, guys, it's not something fun to discuss. The rumor was an MCL sprain, first day of pads, which was Wednesday. He went down. It sounds like he's good to go, and I'm sure they're going to be very, very cautious with him going throughout the rest of fall camp. Yes, I know you have depth at that position, but Trey Knox, again, is your undisputed tight end one. So you cannot be losing these top playmakers as you go throughout fall camp. You definitely need him to go against the Tar Heels. So Trey Knox, it sounds good news on the injury front for him. He should be good to go. Outside of that, guys, Reed McKeeska, who's another tight end, is the only other notable injury, I'd say, just because he'll be out a couple of weeks. Outside of that, it sounds like South Carolina's in a pretty good position as a football team from a health standpoint. Now, you look at the scrimmage, what we heard, and again, this comes from, I've talked to different people, listening to Shane Beamer, of course, but from what I've heard, it sounds like the defense is slightly ahead of the offense, which do not fret, guys. It's what you expect at this point in fall camp. You're instilling new things on the offensive side. You've got some new guys that you added that weren't here in spring. It really starts up front for South Carolina, though. I thought it was really telling listening to Shane Beamer. The offensive line, it's still a work in progress, guys, and there's a chance that it's going to be a work in progress early in this football season. He said, quote, they're mixing in a lot of people, really like our freshman offensive line group. Those guys are going to play for us, a handful of them. So we've heard Shane Beamer over and over say, hey, we're going to play freshmen every single position. It sounds like the offensive line is going to be no different. And, that's something where it's exciting to a degree because the way South Carolina is recruiting, that this top-tier talent they have coming in, these are guys that are good enough. These are your dudes of tomorrow, right? The quote-unquote Great Wall of Carolina, guys like Marquis Anderson and Trovon Bowe and the rest of that group. There's some big-time talent in that room. But you and I both know playing freshmen on the offensive line, it's not a recipe for success in the SEC or in big-time college football. So we'll have to see. Again, it does not sound like they found their best five, their starting five, if you will. They'll get closer as they go throughout fall camp. The offensive line is definitely something that is still a work in progress. For the rest of the scrimmage, sounds like Spencer Rattler, guys, is right on schedule. Shane Beamer talked about him growing as a leader, that he's grown as a leader. The reports sound positive. It even sounds like the turnovers are down for South Carolina, which is exactly what they need going into the season. It does sound like there's a wide open competition at both running back and wide receiver. Shane Beamer mentioned DJ Braswell, freshman running back. Omega Blake was a guy that the Gamecock football Twitter account actually posted a highlight of him making a big play. And from folks we've talked to, it does sound like those two guys in Braswell and Omega Blake are turning heads in fall camp, making big plays. So maybe a guy like Omega Blake is someone who can emerge in those top 3 or 4 wide receiver options and can be a big-time player for South Carolina this season. Certainly the Gamecocks need a couple of those young guys to emerge and play significant roles. Shane Beamer also mentioned Nicholas Harbor and making plays on special teams. He said this about him, quote, he's a tough kid, but, you expect Nick Harbor to play on special teams, I think, as a true freshman, but it just makes me, guys, I wonder – it almost more so reinforces that, we heard last week that Nick Harbor was somewhat, I don't want to say struggling, but there's an adjustment period. He is adjusting to big-time college football. He's adjusting to playing the wide receiver position. And so it sounds like Nick Harbor, it sounds like a lot of his early action is going to be on special teams. I don't know how much he's actually going to be touching the football at the wide receiver position. I don't know how much of an impact he's actually going to be making on the offensive side for the Gamecocks this season. It's something we'll have to pay attention to, guys. I think his reps obviously will increase, and I think they're going to find creative ways to get in the football, especially if Juice Wells is limited early on. But Nicholas Harbor on special teams, they're trying to get him out there, get him on the field. I think it's interesting, his early development at South Carolina. And I don't know that, and maybe Shane Beamer's just keeping it close to the vest, what have you, but, I think Shane Beamer's a pretty transparent dude, pretty open, pretty honest. I don't know that the reports on Nick Harbor are quite what I expected they would be early on. But again, we're reading between the lines. He could be out there balling. We have no idea. Finally, guys, it was great to hear about Jordan Strawn and Mo Kaba. These are two dudes, and of course, Kaba we're going to talk about as we get into our linebacker preview today and tomorrow. But these two guys coming back from injuries. Of course, we talked all the time about the run defense and how porous it was, how terrible it was. Losing these two guys last year was a major, major blow for Clayton White's defense. Instead of hear that they're full strength, full speed, Jordan Strawn's making plays, Mo Kaba's making plays. These guys are both really, really excited to be back on the field and contributing. And, hey, you heard Jatius Gear had an interception on Saturday. Tonka Hemingway's been making plays as well. So, the defensive side of the football, it's a tough thing, right? Because Shane Beamer mentioned it's like, well, you don't want the offense to turn the football over. You want them to be better about that. But you also want the defense to get the ball off of people. So that's why you have to take it with a grain of salt of who's doing what. Does it mean this guy's good, this guy sucks? Does it mean this unit's bad, this unit's good? Take it with a grain of salt, but it's definitely great to hear that I think two of South Carolina's most important pieces on the defensive side, Jordan Strawn, Mo Kaba, they are making big-time impacts for the Gamecocks, returning from injury, and there's no setbacks for them. That's the thing I'm most excited to hear. There's no setbacks for Strawn, Kaba, coming off very, very serious injuries. Those guys look to be 110% good to go. Excited that South Carolina has them back. But all in all, guys, sounded like a successful fall scrimmage number 1. The Gamecocks continue their preparation for UNC. And as you and I both know, I'm sure there are more juicy intel, juicy nuggets to follow as we continue to count down the days until kickoff. Guys, let's jump into the break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling as we start talking Gamecocks linebackers here on this Monday. All that and more here on TDC. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, August 14th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Again, guys, really excited. Continue to count down the days. We got 19 days until toe meets leather on the 2023 football season. Guys, a quick update on TDC. As I mentioned, we're changing things up on Wednesday. The rest of the week will be normal. Wednesday, we're live 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. So get your coffee and hang out with us on Wednesday. Rest of the week, noon to 3, of course. Podcast drops every single day at 5 p.m. Eastern on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast at the Spurs Up Show. You also might find TDC looking a little bit different these days on YouTube, guys, in regards to we are going away from the just putting in the title, the Daily Crow, and the date. You know, I realize for those of you that tune in each and every single day and, you know, you guys know where to find TDC, you're going to tune in. But, you know, I want to make the show more appealing to those who may just be kind of scrolling through YouTube, see the video. They're like, okay, these topics are interesting. This show looks interesting. Also, new thumbnails as well, listing all of the titles, all of the topics we're doing, everything, of course, a little bit more appealing to draw people in. And I think it's going to be a value add. I think it looks a lot better. I think it's a lot cleaner. I think it's more informative. I think it's better for you guys, the end consumer. So there's that. Next week, guys, there will be no TDC next week, all week long. Monday through Friday, we are off. The podcast will drop every single day at 5 a.m. Eastern, but yours truly going to be out of town. We're taking one last big trip before kickoff, but there will be plenty of content, guys, because I've got some things to say. About week 0, Vandy, Hawaii, some of the other games. Of course, also my bookie, our business partner, our newest partner. That ad will start dropping next week. So, of course, we'll have some bets, some plays, what have you. A lot of fun. So, in the meantime, and of course, guys, I'll keep you updated with everything regarding the Daily Crow and content plans, all that good stuff. That being said, hey, let's go ahead and move into it, guys. The position unit preview series will wrap up at the end of this week. And on today's show, we're talking Gamecocks linebackers entering the 2023 football season. Top storylines for a group that, let's call it for what it is. This group has been an eyesore for South Carolina over the years. It's one of those that, you know, Gamecocks football has always had that one guy, whether it be Sky Moore, Ernest Jones, TJ Brunson, whoever it was, that one elite player in the middle. But top to bottom, for whatever reason, it has felt like this group has been a severe deficiency and a severe weakness since probably I'd say early 2010s when guys like Eric Norwood and Jasper Brinkley and Shaq Wilson and guys like that, Rodney Paulk, graced the field at South Carolina. Now, you look at this group and who the Gamecocks lost from a season ago. The top two, Sherrod Green, who it felt like was at South Carolina forever, 77 total tackles, 3.5 tackles for loss, and 2.5 sacks. Had a really good season in his final season, in Garnet and Black. And then Brad Johnson, who had 48 total tackles, no tackles for loss, no sacks, did have an interception as well as, by the way, Sherrod Green had one also. But Brad Johnson did have an interception for South Carolina, but he is now gone as well. So the Gamecocks are replacing their top 2 linebackers entering this season. And you look at who South Carolina returns, 10 total linebackers are on this roster. Bam Martin Scott, Mo Kaba, Debo Williams, Colin Bryant, Andrew Colacerdo, Ronnie Porter, Stone Blanton, Jamian Risher Jr., Jerron Willis, and Grayson Pup Howard. will all take the field for South Carolina at the linebacker position this season. And when you're talking top storylines for the Gamecocks linebackers, you have to start with Mo Kaba and his return from injury. This was a guy last year that I think most regarded as one of the leaders of the football team, certainly a leader on the defense, a guy who was expected to have a massive season for South Carolina. And guess what? The narrative around the Gamecocks not being able to stop the run, it was the same thing going into last year as it is this year. You felt like Mo Kaba was going to be a guy who could help solve some of those run game issues or, deficiencies stopping the run, if you will. That injury in week 2 against the Arkansas Razorbacks was one that I think really when you look at last year, you can't put an asterisk next to the numbers because everybody deals with injuries. Everybody has to get over it. That's why depth is so important. But South Carolina's defensive numbers and the defense as a whole took a massive hit last year when Mo Kaba went out in week 2. And it really forced guys like a Stone Blanton, like a Debo Williams in more of a pivotal role. It forced them into much bigger roles for South Carolina. And I think at times you saw that bite the Gamecocks. Getting Mo Kaba back this year as a leader, he's a veteran. He's a guy who's played at a high level before. Of course, he'll have that chip on his shoulder to have his biggest and best season yet and bounce back from injury. And thankfully, it sounds like that the health of Mo Kaba is not something that's a storyline right now. I was kind of wondering, you tear your ACL, you come back from that. Is he going to be his normal self? Is he going to be a step slow? It doesn't sound like there's any issue there. Now, we'll wait and see what happens on the field and what he looks like. But Mo Kaba certainly getting him back, I think that is a huge boost for this linebacker group. And, of course, he will figure in and be your leader at the linebacker position, at least to start the 2023 football season. You then look at Stone Blanton, the guy that I mentioned was forced into action. And this was a guy I was really excited when they picked him up out of the state of Mississippi. He was a 4-star prospect. You saw flashes last year. You saw flashes, no doubt. I think you also saw at times the growing pains of being a true freshman in the SEC. The time that really sticks out to me was the Florida game late last season. Of course, Gamecocks get blasted 38-6, but it was early in that game. And I'll never forget, I was texting a former player, and there was a long touchdown run, like a 70-yard touchdown run, and he texted me and said that was Stone Blanton's responsibility. He lost his assignment. He lost his gap. He lost where he was supposed to be. And in the SEC, it costs you. It bites you. I think those licks are going to turn out to be a positive for Stone Blanton. I think those growing pains, I think those experiences, because there's nothing that can replicate on-field, in-game experience, right? There's nothing that can simulate that. No scrimmage, no practice, nothing of the sort can simulate live bullets in real SEC action. I think Stone Blanton, he did some nice things last year. I think there was obviously a lot of opportunity for growth. I think you saw, again, many things that he's going to improve on, get better at. But this is a dude that was regarded as a big-time prospect coming out of the state of Mississippi for a reason, 4-star linebacker. He will look to build off that freshman season. And the question is, can and will Stone Blanton turn into a dude that South Carolina depends on? I don't think right now he's a projected starter, but I think he's right behind Mo Kaba. So he's going to play a lot in this 4-2-5. I think Stone Blanton is your dude, more of your traditional, like, hard-nosed, run-stopper, true middle linebacker, big, strong dude. He also came on, I thought, late last season, had a good game against Clemson. Stone Blanton is a dude you depend on in this season as he looks to build off that freshman campaign and maybe learn from some of the things that took place last year. Debo Williams is an interesting piece, right? The transfer out of Delaware. And I have been very blunt and very honest about Debo Williams, that I did not think he was, going into last year, I did not think he was a high-level SEC linebacker. I want to take a moment to tip the cap to Debo Williams. Is he an all-SEC player? Maybe not. Is he an All-American? No, but I think this is a dude that, as a veteran, has a positive impact on this football team and plays a very serviceable linebacker for South Carolina, which is saying a lot more than we've seen from some others in years past. You would expect Debo Williams to really come into his own and have his best season in Garnet and Black, right? I mean, this is a guy who's played a ton of football for you. He's made a ton of big plays. You need the biggest and best season from Debo Williams in this upcoming season. I think he's capable of it. He's a guy that's grown. I think he's gotten better during his time at South Carolina. Credit Clayton White and that coaching staff on the defensive side. They need their best season from him this year if they're going to take a step forward and stopping the run and just overall being better at that position. Jerron Willis was a splash that South Carolina made in the transfer portal. Can he prove, and does he prove, to be a big-time portal pickup? I mentioned, guys, earlier in the show, the Gamecocks, fairly or unfairly, from the national perspective, it seems that South Carolina's only looked at for what they lost in the portal and not looked at for what they picked up. And I thought Jerron Willis, the former four-star prospect and, of course, coming over from Ole Miss, I thought this was a dude that was a really sneaky good pickup and one that sort of, it just got lost in the shuffle, right? You know, like just picking up a linebacker in the transfer portal. It's not like picking up a quarterback or a running back or a wide receiver or a big-time defensive lineman, but I think Jerron Willis can slide in and be a really nice piece for you. Even if he's not starting, even if he's not playing a ton of snaps, that's a pretty nice depth piece. Like when you think about it, another SEC staff recruited this kid, and they identified him as, okay, he's SEC caliber. He can play at this level. He can make a contribution. Having a guy like that, I think you improve the depth. I think you increase competitive depth, SEC depth, real SEC depth in your room. I think Jerron Willis, and again, does he prove to be that big-time portal pickup? Do we see him get on the field and make some plays? And, of course, at the linebacker position, you don't want to talk about that dreaded I word, but it happens. I mean, injuries happen. Can this be a dude that steps up, emerges, and shows, you know, why he was a four-star prospect, why he was a guy that was wanted so badly by multiple SEC schools? Really, really excited to see what Jerron Willis can do for South Carolina this fall. Grayson Pup Howard is a name and a guy that I have been raving about as we get closer and closer to the start of the 2023 football season. Grayson Pup Howard is a guy that just screams freshman all-SEC in my mind. I mean, you look at the makeup, you look at the build, you look at the athleticism, you look at the fact, guys, this guy was so excited to be a Gamecock. He got to South Carolina last year for bowl practice. Made himself a fan favorite very, very early on. And I mentioned going into fall camp, one of the position battles to watch for, Grayson Pup Howard against Debo Williams, that weak side linebacker spot. Not because Debo Williams isn't a fine player, but I really, truly believe when it comes to ceiling, when it comes to overall talent, Grayson Pup Howard has more of that than damn near anybody in this room. You talk about great linebackers, and I'm not trying to put too much on this kid, too much pressure or unrealistic expectations. But, you know, you look at this group, and I think Grayson Pup Howard is a guy that if he plays to his full potential, there's going to be growing pains, right? There's going to be growing pains as a true freshman. This is a guy that I think you look at and say, he can be a serious, legitimate, big-time SEC football player. He can be a big-time linebacker for South Carolina, not just in stopping the run, but playing the pass as well. But a big physical kid, screams freshman all-SEC. Cannot wait to see what this kid does for South Carolina this season. We've talked a lot, guys, about stopping the run. I mentioned on Thursday and Friday, the defensive line, we beat up on them, right, for finishing 116th nationally in rushing defense, 198 yards per game. That blame has got to be spread as well to the linebacker position. As Shane Beamer pointed out at SEC Media Days, guys, it takes all 11. And South Carolina's linebackers, they have not helped the cause over the years. They have absolutely not helped the cause. And I don't really know why linebacker, by the way, has been such a weakness at South Carolina. but it has been. For whatever reason, it just has been. I don't really get it, but it's just never been a position you looked at and said, man, that's the strength of the football team. That's the strength of the defense. For whatever reason, that just has not been the case. But these linebackers have a major role in stopping the run. You think about that 4-2-5 scheme that Clayton White runs, the linebackers, those two are pivotal. And so getting improved linebacker play, getting the most out of these guys, having guys step up like a Pup Howard, like a Jerron Willis, like a Stone Blanton, Mo Kaba playing his best football of his career, Debo Williams playing the best of his career. You need this group to take a step forward and live up to their potential if the Gamecocks are going to make serious strides in stopping the run this season. Are they able to do that? Do we see it early on? Do we see it early on from this group that's saying, hey, this group looks different. This group is different than years past. And the statistics stopping the run specifically are reflecting that. And finally, guys, I thought it was really interesting. Clayton White's comments a couple of weeks ago, and I'm paraphrasing here, but when Clayton White was asked about the linebacker position, and he was voicing how excited he is for this group, the newcomers, the guys returning. But he also mentioned, and I think he said this with, of course, as much respect as he could, that, he mentioned Sherrod Green and Brad Johnson in saying that, those guys were athletes. And again, I'm very much so paraphrasing, but just basically saying that, they were nice players. But he said guys like Pup Howard, Stone Blanton, Mo Kaba, these dudes we have in our room now, these dudes were born to be linebackers. I think he exactly said that. Born to be linebackers. And I just thought that was really telling. I thought that was really telling that, Clayton White wasn't being disrespectful to Sherrod Green and Brad Johnson and who they had. But when he's talking about these new guys, these guys are born to be linebackers. These guys have what it takes to be linebackers. They are linebackers to the core. Reading between the lines there, I think Clayton White is very, very, very excited for this group. I think he's very excited for, addition by subtraction. And again, it's with all due respect, but I think there's a belief there that while some of these guys may be younger, guys like Pup Howard, Stone Blanton, maybe they're younger and they'll have to play bigger roles. I think there's a feeling that while South Carolina lost experience, they upgraded in talent. And I think there's reason to believe that that will be the case, and I cannot wait to watch it play out this season and see if the Gamecocks linebackers group finally goes from deficiency to strength for this defense. Guys, let's jump into a quick break. On the other side, we'll keep the conversation rolling here on this Monday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie Ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, August the 14th, 2023. In 10 minutes, we've got Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC upcoming on the show. Really excited to talk all things Gamecocks, SEC football, and college football nationally with him as well. And then our third hour, the Q&A Power Hour, in hour number 3. Really excited to hear from you, your questions, your comments, your calls. Guys, in the meantime, we continue the conversation. Which Gamecocks linebacker has the most to prove this season? And when you talk in terms of a group like the linebacker position, it is one similar to others where when the group as a whole has so many question marks and has not been good over the years, take your pick. Whichever player you want. I think each and every single guy in this room, to a degree, has their own checklist of things they want to and need to accomplish this season. But there's one guy in particular in this room that I feel like I look at and I say, for South Carolina to really take a step forward, this guy needs to emerge. You know, I feel like Mo Kaba, I'm confident in him coming back from injury. He's going to be a very solid piece for South Carolina. I think with Debo Williams, I think what you see is what you get with Debo. I think Grayson Pup Howard, there's pressure there, but he's a true freshman, so you want to keep those expectations realistic while also expecting a ton. Stone Blanton is a guy. He is my most approved for the Gamecocks linebacker position. He is a guy that I thought last year, thrown into the fire probably even earlier than we expected or earlier than most folks wanted him to be thrown in there. And I was surprised, honestly, how humble his stats were a season ago. 7 total tackles and just 1.5 tackles for loss. And this was a guy that I thought he flashed at times. I thought he played good football for South Carolina at times. There were also times like the Florida game in which he lost contain. He lost his gap. He misplayed his assignment, and it cost South Carolina a 70-yard touchdown. This is a dude I look at, in Stone Blanton. That if South Carolina is going to improve, guys, right? We talk about blue chip ratio and getting big-time prospects. I mean, this is a dude, a 4-star prospect out of the state of Mississippi. You need a guy like Stone Blanton. Okay, you got your feet wet last year. You got thrown in the fire. You were able to learn. You got in the weight room, all that good stuff, right? You took your licks as a freshman. Now it's time to come into your own and emerge as a leader at the middle linebacker position. We've talked about the run defense, I mean, over and over and over again to this point. 198 yards per game, 116th nationally. The linebackers had damn near just as much to do with that as the defensive line did. Stone Blanton's a guy you look at. Your typical middle linebacker, big, nasty, run stopper. He's physical. Has his speed improved from last year. Has his discipline improved from last year. I think Stone Blanton's a guy, I think he's got all SEC potential. I really do. I think he's got all SEC potential. And these are the type of dudes South Carolina desperately needs to live up to their full potential. You work so hard in recruiting to go out and get these guys and land these big-time prospects and get these game changers for your program. And Stone Blanton was a huge win on the recruiting trail, you might remember. And so while this is a room that there's tons to prove for multiple parties, I look at Stone Blanton. He's going to be right there behind Mo Kaba, providing quality depth, right? He's going to play a lot. And as we mentioned previously in that 4-2-5 scheme, those two linebackers in the middle, it is absolutely pivotal that they be strong. It is pivotal they be solid. Clayton White and company have done a great job in flipping that linebacker room slowly but surely the way they're recruiting. But guys like Stone Blanton have to live up to their billing. Guys like Stone Blanton have to live up to their recruiting profile. They have to live up to their stars. They have to live up to really, forget the stars. They got to live up to their potential. They have to live up to their ceiling. They have to live up to their talent level. So when you look across the board, maybe the Gamecocks have some questions at defensive line, right? Lack of depth could be a concern there, especially in the interior. You're going to need your middle linebackers playing fantastic football. If South Carolina is going to take a step forward in the run defense, which they have to have any sort of successful season, in my mind, they have to. It's going to come down to a guy like Stone Blanton taking that step forward and, being a dude that, I think that while he looked shaky at times last year, that could have been one of the best things for him. Getting in the fire, because there's nothing that can simulate those live bullets. There's nothing that can simulate what you experience on a SEC game day and facing SEC offenses and, stopping the run against an SEC opponent. He went through his freshman growing pains last year. But now South Carolina desperately needs Stone Blanton to learn from his mistakes, to show that he's improved. He's taken what he learned. He's applied it through training, improving speed, improving discipline, and being the big-time middle linebacker that we all know he's capable of being for the Gamecocks. All right, guys, we're not going to jump into another break, but that was most proof of the linebacker position. We await Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. Guys, continue to leave us your questions, your comments, your calls, everything else here on this Monday, August 14th. Crazy story here coming out of the news here. Michael Orr has petitioned the Tennessee court that he was never actually adopted. He claims to have signed a document at 18 which gave them legal authority to make business deals in his name. That's wild. That's unfortunate. Because The Blind Side was such a touching story and sounds like it was all fake. So, damn. Anyways, guys, appreciate you all. Thank y'all so much for the love, for the support. Truly cannot say thank you enough. Anyways, guys, we await Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. Truly, man, thank you all so much for the continued love and support. Cannot say thank you enough. Really excited for this week, guys. TDC rocking as normal, except for Wednesday. We'll go 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. 9 a.m. to noon Eastern time. We will rock, so grab your coffee and rock with us. We're going to try our very best to get our good friend Chris Marler. I have not told him yet, so I hope Chris Marler can do it. Hopefully Chris Marler can do it. I don't think he should have much issue, but we'll see. I don't think he'll have much issue, but we shall see. Anyways, guys, AP Top 25 is out. Gamecocks unranked at number 27. Let's see. 843-790-3377. By the way, guys, that is the number that you want to contact to be sure to get on our show. You can also leave your questions, your comments in the YouTube chat, and we'll get to all of those in hour number 3 and our Q&A Power Hour. Georgia, number 1 in the AP poll, which is not a surprise at all. The back-to-back national champions. How about this on some other notes? Because there's other sports going on, right? Gamecocks women's soccer ranked 3rd in the SEC coaches preseason ranking. They opened this season Thursday at Clemson. So, Carolina-Clemson on Thursday. The season gets going. But, South Carolina 3rd in the SEC coaches preseason ranking. Women's soccer. Doing work. Love to see it. Guys, again, Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC, should be joining us any second now. We've shot him over the link. So, we will get to him in a second. Brad Crawford tweeting, Shane Beamer's squad was undervalued each of the past 2 years in the preseason. It's happening again. If the Gamecocks needed any preseason motivation this month, this is it. Indeed. I guess Mac Brown is not able to play the "we are underrated" card, or excuse me, why are we the not the underrated? He's not able to play the why are we're the underdog in the game card. It's like y'all are ranked and South Carolina is not. So, Yeah. So. Anyways, guys, 843-790-3377. Get this. Every year for the past 21 seasons except 2019, at least one preseason top 10 team finished the season unranked. Last year, it was Texas A&M, Baylor, and Oklahoma. Which preseason top 10 team will finish unranked? Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Southern Cal, Penn State, Florida State, Clemson, and Washington. We shall see. Again, guys, we are awaiting Chris Gordy of Locked on SEC. Not exactly sure where he is either way. Let's see. Don't know where Chris Gordy is right now. Let's see. We might need to send him a new link here. Technology, great until it isn't. Guys, again, 19 days until kickoff, man. We have reached the teens number of days until kickoff. And we've only got one Saturday left with no college football. After this weekend, week 0 will take place. Vandy, Hawaii, cannot wait, man. Cannot wait. So excited to get this season going, man. We've exhausted. I mean, I'm really, again, of course, still enjoying the position unit preview series. Love doing the preseason content, but I'm so excited to get into our in-season content. Just can't wait, man. Cannot wait. Of course, NFL preseason has begun. For those of you who are into such things, I watched a little bit of preseason. You know, I'm not a huge NFL guy, admittedly, already, but you know, was able to watch some. Thought it was, you know, watch the a little bit of the Panthers, a little bit of the Packers, a couple of the other games as well. About Anthony Richardson throwing an interception on like his second pass. Will Levis, shaky, whatever. A lot of these rookies getting play. So excited for the NFL season as well. Going to be a lot of fun. All right, we're going to go ahead and get him in here. Looks like he's ready behind the scenes, guys. First time ever on the show. Really excited. Again, we're going to talk Gamecocks, SEC, and more as we sit just 19 days away until toe meets leather in the 2023 football season. We got Chris Gordy of Locked on SEC joins the show. Chris, what's going on, my man? Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah, man, absolutely. Good to be on. It's fun. Football's almost here. The only thing that could ruin our day is technology issues. So glad we could make it happen, and I'm here.
Yeah, technology is great, Chris, until it isn't. My audience likes to refer to it when we have something mess up, whether it be audio, video, whatever, the Muschamp hackers. So just blame the Muschamp hackers if you have any issue. That's typically who we put the blame on here. But again,
Gator fans would agree with you.
Yeah, for sure. When in doubt, just blame Will Muschamp. Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC. Chris, appreciate you taking the time. For those who are not familiar, by the way, because I actually just became familiar with their work around the time of SEC Media Days. You guys did a great job at SEC Media Days and been following along since. Just let folks know who you are, what it is that you do. I know you're on radio as well. And, of course, the Locked on SEC podcast, talking all things SEC football. Just give folks kind of a rundown of who you are, what it is that you do, and the content you provide.
Yeah, I mean, about, 15 years ago, graduated from LSU, was always a big fan of SEC football, as I'm sure a lot of you are, growing up in the South. And, throughout my time at LSU, I got to go, went to a lot of road games. I got to experience a lot of the road environments across the SEC for the first time. And, was already in love, but fell even more in love with football across the South. And so throughout the years, been working in sports talk radio and all this, but had done a couple of SEC centric podcasts over the years. And I guess it was about 3-4 years ago, Locked On was looking for a new SEC host, and I said, "Come on, this is no brainer. Get me in here." So, been doing that for the last couple of years, and yeah, it's unique doing a full conference show, and it really is. I mentioned I go to LSU. When LSU plays, I root for LSU. But as soon as the game ends, I take my LSU hat off, and I look at it from a completely SEC perspective. Look, when Bama won the championship, we're going to talk about how great that is. When Georgia wins, we're going to talk about how great that is. So, it is a little bit fun covering it from a perspective of all 14, soon to be 16 teams. But it's a lot to keep up with. But man, I love it. I mean, every day I'm keeping up with everything that's going on throughout fall camp and everything and anything SEC. So it's a lot of fun. We've had a lot of interviews over the years. I love talking to different players and different experts and all that. We talked with Spencer Rattler at SEC Media Days. I just really like the kid. I mean, I know he gets a little bit of a bad rap from, his early days where he's a little bit of a diva and all that, but I really like the South Carolina team, man. And they fit in a category with several other SEC teams this year that, like, my question is, what are you? Like, you could convince me South Carolina could be a 10-win team. You could convince me this is a 6-win team. Like, there are so many of those 50-50 games on the schedule and so many things that have to go right. And if they don't go right, things could really go awry. And so I put South Carolina in that category. I love Shane Beamer. I think they're in a great spot. But man, this thing could go either way this year.
Chris, you mentioned Spencer Rattler. We'll start there with the Gamecocks and offensively their outlook for this season. What did you take away from your conversations with Spencer Rattler? And also just, how do you evaluate his game? Because, as you mentioned, South Carolina is one of those teams that they could go either way up or they could go way down. Spencer Rattler's the same way, is he not? This is a guy that last year there was a mixed bag of reviews on him, when he came in from Oklahoma. And, I think the optimism in Gamecock Nation was extremely high. And let's call it for what it is, man. He was abysmal for 10 weeks, and the last 3 weeks catches fire, one of the hottest quarterbacks in college football. There's a new OC now. There's a belief that with a simplified offense, a simplified scheme, that he's going to play much more consistent football, much better football, limit the turnovers. But I'm not sure it's a guarantee. How do you view Spencer Rattler? And again, you're just overall takeaways from the conversations you had with him in Nashville.
Yeah, well, it goes back to the same thing on what is the team. What are you, Spencer Rattler? Are you the guy we saw the first few weeks of the season, or the guy we saw the backstretch of the season? I do think some of that's unwarranted on him. I thought the offensive line last year to start the year was absolutely atrocious for South Carolina. This is a group that we've gone throughout the years. Like Kevin Harris a couple years ago was one of my favorite SEC running backs. I think he's like one of the most underrated backs. The offensive line was decent, when he was there. This past year, it was rough, man. Spencer was dealing with pressure in his face almost constantly. Some of that was him holding on to the ball a little bit too long, needing to make quicker decisions and all that. But yeah, I don't know what happened down the backstretch of last season. They got the ball out quicker. The offensive line protected more, and look at the success. You go in, you play Tennessee and beat the snot out of them. You go into Clemson and throw it all over on them, and then even the bowl game against Notre Dame, I thought you guys had a chance to win that one. So yeah, if the offensive line and honestly defensive line, if South Carolina can get good play out of the trenches on both sides of the ball this year, this is going to be a really good football team, and they're going to win a lot of games. If the offensive line is not improved and they're not protecting Spencer and you don't have the time, yeah, we're going to see a lot of what we saw through the first handful of weeks last season.
Chris, a great place to start on the offensive side for South Carolina is Juice Wells at the wide receiver position. I know, again, you're an LSU guy, so LSU fans are going to say it's Malik Neighbors. Gamecock fans are going to say it's Juice Wells, but the bottom line is this: Antoine Wells Jr., one of the best wide receivers in the SEC. Just talk about his game. Where would you rank him? Overall thoughts on the type of player he is. And, having that type of guy at your disposal, it's a huge luxury for a guy like Spencer Rattler when, you're looking for him down the field, looking to make big plays for the offense.
Yeah, he was one of the best weapons in the SEC last year, and comes just a little bit shy of being a 1,000-yard receiver. I thought he was, they don't beat Tennessee without him. They don't beat Clemson without him. He was lights out. The Arkansas game he went off in last year. I think, the news, I thought he had a chance to leave, and obviously Spencer had a chance to leave. And when both those guys announced they were coming back, I said, man, that's not just great for South Carolina, but that's great for the development of both guys. I think Juice Wells has a chance to take his game to an even higher level, and same thing with Spencer. Now, I'm a little bit worried. Heard Shane talk over the weekend saying Juice a little bit banged up, and that the hope is, or the expectation is, he'll be ready to go week 1. Okay, I'm going to cross my fingers and hold you to that. But if he can't go against North Carolina, that's a problem. I was down at the Manning Passing Academy a few weeks ago, and I got to see Drake May in person. And I was, call me one of the haters. I was one of the people saying, I'm not buying it with Drake May. I watched some North Carolina games last year. It was whatever. Seeing this kid in person and seeing how, I mean, first off, how he was working with the kids, I was like, holy hell. Like, now I see why all the scouts are in love with this guy. Like, he's got personality plus chemistry, all that kind of stuff, charisma. But, like, Drake May is going to be a problem. He's going to be really good at North Carolina this year. He's going to score the football week 1. You got to go toe-to-toe with them. You got to match them score for score. You get a turnover or two, boom, advantage Gamecocks. But, yeah, like, if you don't have Juice Wells week 1, that line is going to move, you know, a little bit more in favor of North Carolina. So that would be a big loss. But look, if he's ready to go and he plays all season long, I expect him to be right up there, top 5 wide receivers in the SEC this year. You know, we'll see who emerges from the Tennessee bunch. I know, you know, Squirrel White is a guy a lot of people are high on. Malik Neighbors at LSU, like you mentioned. You know, Georgia doesn't seem to have like that one guy. Obviously, it's, you know, the tight end Brock Bowers, but they don't really have a number 1 receiver. So it's kind of an interesting thing on who's going to lead the SEC receiving yards this year. Absolutely, I can make an argument for Juice Wells, but I want to see some of these other pieces, and I want to see Nick Harbor, man. How do they use this guy right out of the gates? He's too elite of a talent not to get the football. I compared a little bit to Missouri last year. They bring in Luther Burden, number 1 receiver in the country, and it was like they were struggling to figure out how to get him the ball. Like, dude, put the ball in his hands and let the kid go to work. Like, this isn't that hard. I think South Carolina absolutely has to do that with Nick Harbor. Now, how quickly can he adapt? How ready will he be? That's going to be the big question. But I think, you know, him and then some of the other weapons, Xavier, I think, has a chance to have a nice year. There's some other pieces in there. DeCarry and Jordan I've had on my show a couple times, and I love DK. I just like, where do you use him? I know they're talking about getting him some running back snaps. He's just, again, he's another guy, like, put the ball in his hands and let's go to work. Let's just see. They've got some weapons, man. But again, it all starts with Juice Wells. He's got to have a monster year for this team to be really, really good.
And then, Chris, you mentioned defensively, and I mean, I know my audience, they're about tired of hearing about the line of scrimmage and the deficiencies there. You know, we've heard the stats over and over. And I mean, again, this isn't something where, you know, folks are just picking on the Gamecocks. I mean, you look at the numbers. South Carolina finished outside of the top 100 in rushing offense and rushing defense a season ago. And rushing defense was ugly. 116th in the country, 198 yards per game. It's a low-key miracle. They won 8 games when you factor in that the rushing defense was that bad. There's got to be a step forward for South Carolina this year. You know, we talk about year 3. That's when coaches pop. And I think for defensive coordinator Clayton White, it's a very, very big season because, again, all of the focus has been on Marcus Satterfield and the offense, and it's an offensive football game. And, you know, I understand that you score points to win, but South Carolina has just been so bad in stopping the run. I feel like, Chris, to your point, for them to take a step forward of any kind, not just as a defense, but a football team as a whole, they've got to find a way, not even to stop the run, but just slow down the run. Chris, just to give you an idea, South Carolina, they have not finished 10th or better in rushing defense in the SEC since 2017. I think that has to change to get back to that 8-win mark.
It does. It's just going to be a tough ask. I mean, I know North Carolina is going to throw the ball a bunch. Furman, you shouldn't have any problems with. But that stretch of Georgia, Mississippi State, Tennessee, Florida, Missouri, and A&M are all teams that want to run the football and will run the football. And how well can you do slowing them down? Now, Georgia might be its own animal. Maybe we just discount that one. We go ahead and put the L in the column and we move on to the next one. But Mississippi State, Jaquavius Marks, I think they're going to be Mississippi State's going to be way more balanced this year. No more air raid Mike Leach. Tennessee, Jabari Small. Tennessee ran the ball very well last year. That was almost like one of the underrated things about Tennessee. All the headlines was Hendon Hooker in the passing game, but they ran the football very well. Florida, their quarterback stinks. Graham Mertz, they're good. Like their only option is to run the football, and they got some good backs back there in ATN and Montrell Johnson. And then Missouri with Cody Schrader, and then A&M's got some young guys they're working in as well. So we're going to find out very quickly, man, like how good this defense is in stopping the run. Now, you lose Jordan Burch, that hurts. You lose Zach Pickens. He was one of my favorite players. I interviewed him at the Senior Bowl, and just a great dude. But who's going to be that guy that can step up? Is it one of the names of guys that are coming in through the portal? Elijah Davis. I know Tonka Hemingway is the one everybody talks about, and the expectation is he takes his game to the next level, and that he becomes a star in the SEC this year, and that would be a good bet on my part. But who else on that D line could step up? And that's what I was saying. Like in the trenches, if South Carolina could show improvement there up front, and they're physical and they're pushing you around, then yeah, we're going to see a much improved front four or front seven really, and slowing down that run and getting after it. And let's see who of that group emerges. We'll see.
Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC, talking Gamecocks, SEC football, everything in between. Chris, you mentioned that South Carolina, and I agree with you, by the way, but you mentioned they're one of those teams that's very volatile, right? They could either go 5-7, they could go 10-2. I mean, there's a range of possibilities, and there are real football reasons that you can give people and convince them. And again, I think the Gamecocks fall in there. I think Kentucky's in there, Mizzou's in there, heck, Tennessee's in there, A&M's in there, almost the whole West outside of LSU and Bama's in there. So there's a lot of teams in that middle of the pack that are in that 6 to 9 win range. Do you look at South Carolina, though, as one of the most volatile because of the question marks? Because I tend to do so. I think there are some teams in that middle of the pack that there are some more knowns than maybe what South Carolina has, or they have more things they can kind of depend on, if you will. I think when you look at South Carolina, and I'm taking nothing away, I mean, you see the shirt, but when you talk Beamer ball and the way they've won games with special teams, they've won games with defense, I mean, Chris, call it for what it is. They've cheated death the first 2 years. They've led the league in turnovers. They finished outside of the top 100 in rushing offense and defense, and they still find ways to win. Does that make you feel like going into year 3 of Shane Beamer, okay, they're definitely going to overachieve, give them the benefit of the doubt. It might be ugly, but they're going to find ways to win, which is what really matters? Or do you swing the other way that you feel like, hey, it's been a nice story, but it's going to catch up to them at some point if they continue these trends? I mean, how do you make sense of South Carolina?
Well, I know this, and this is where the unknowns come into part. Like, can they improve ball security? Can they? You talk about them forcing turnovers. What about turning the ball over? What was it? Double-digit interceptions for Spencer last year. If they, those are the unknowns. Like if you can cut those numbers down, less interceptions, less fumbles, less turnovers, they're going to lead to bigger and better things for your team. And so that's where you say, when you look at the schedule and you go, okay, home against Florida, that Florida's down, we should win that game. At Missouri, okay, like we should be a better program than Missouri right now. But I almost look at those from an unbiased standpoint of the swing game. What's that? The difference could be a Spencer Rattler interception in that game and you lose. There's just so many little things here and there that you look at them as swing games. But I look at the road slate. I mean, going to Georgia is going to be brutal. Going to Tennessee is going to be tough. But I'm also not one of those people that, look, the biggest thing that shocked me this offseason has been the Tennessee fans jumping out saying, we're back. And it almost feels like Texas a couple years ago. Remember Sam Ehlinger wins the Sugar Bowl and he's going, we're back. Pump the brakes, Tennessee. You're much improved. Josh Heupel's a great coach, but you just lost Hendon Hooker, Cedric Tillman, Jalen Hyatt, all these pieces, and suddenly you're just going to sustain success and you're going to be a double-digit win team. I'm pumping the brakes a little bit on them. I like Joe Milton. I interviewed Joe Milton a couple times. Joe Milton comes with a little bit more swagger and a little bit more cockiness than Hendon Hooker. What I loved about Hendon Hooker was he was such a good dude, but he was also very diligent, hard worker, team player. Joe Milton likes the flashiness a little bit. He's got the big gold chain around his neck, and I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that as long as you back it up. And if Joe Milton doesn't back that up and he's overthrowing people, I mean, like we saw it at Michigan and then his first couple of years at Tennessee, no touch, throwing the ball 100 miles an hour down the field over guys' heads. So that's where I as I break it down and run through the schedule, I go, I'm not automatically just chalking L with South Carolina going to Tennessee. And then at Missouri, again, I think very winnable. And then at A&M, tough place to play Caulfield. But what the hell is A&M? That thing's been a mess the last couple of years. And you're going to bring in Bobby Petrino and it's going to get better? I don't know about that. We're going to see. So to me, the road games is always where I start and say, can you win those? I would say like at minimum, if you told me right now South Carolina is going to go 2-2 in those games, would you take that? I think I would if I'm a South Carolina fan. So then it's about hold and serve at home. I think you should beat Mississippi State. I think you should beat Florida. Obviously, you should beat Vanderbilt. And Kentucky's a tough one because Devin Leary coming in, but you get him at home. And so that one and then Clemson. So I could running through the schedule, as long as you start off with a W against North Carolina, I could really talk myself into 10 wins. But again, you got to do all the little things right. And that includes cutting down on the turnovers and protecting the football. And then what's the run game look like? That's my biggest question with South Carolina is we've always had somebody, whether it was Marshawn Lloyd, Kevin Harris, all these guys throughout the years. Right now, I'm looking at that running back spot and saying, who's the guy? Is it Juju? Is it, all these different guys that they've brought in the offseason? Can somebody emerge, or is it just going to be running back by committee? We'll see. And how good are they running the football? How balanced can they be this year?
Chris, you mentioned that UNC game a couple of times. A lot in this fan base are labeling that the must-win game of the 2023 season. I wouldn't go that far because I think it's a situation you've seen the Gamecocks improve from week 1 to week 13 under Shane Beamer, but it's a big game. I mean, it's a pivotal game. It's a tone setter for both sides. Just your overall thoughts on that ball game. And I know a lot of people in Gamecock Nation really surprised to see South Carolina as the 2.5 or 3 or whatever book you're looking at, but the underdog in this ball game. Your just brief thoughts on week 1, because again, it's certainly LSU, Florida State's the headliner. Clemson, Duke is interesting, but North Carolina, South Carolina is definitely one of those games. Drake May, Spencer Rattler. I think these two teams are really similar. That is a game that's going to have a lot of attention on it because we're going to learn a lot about both of these teams early in the season.
Yeah, and I was actually going to be coming to that game until I got tickets. Somebody got me tickets to the LSU Florida State game, so I'm going to that one now. I'll be in Orlando, but I was really looking forward to going to North Carolina, South Carolina. I had Greg Sankey on our show at SEC Media Days. He said he's going to be there for that. He's going to start there. I think he's going to end up in Orlando for the LSU game. So no, this is it's a big game from the standpoint of we love the conference pride, we love to beat our chest. It's ACC versus SEC. It just is. You lose this, all the ACC people are going to be beating their chest. All SEC stinks, all overrated, whatever. It's a tone setter, certainly, especially knowing in week 3 you're going to Athens. You want to start off on the right foot with a win. But to me, it's also not a season ender. We just mentioned LSU. They lose a heartbreaker to Florida State in week 1 last year. Guess what? They still beat Alabama and win the SEC West. So there's still a lot to play for, but in my mind, if I'm South Carolina, if I'm going to be realistic with myself and say, look, we're not beating Georgia and we're not winning the East, the next best thing is get to 10 wins, get to a New Year's Six bowl, and that would be awesome, if I'm a Gamecocks fan. So that's what I'm kind of looking at, and what's standing in the way of getting the 10 wins is you losing the week 1 game. So that's where it's big in my mind. Now, if you think Georgia's going to take a step back, Mike Bobo calling the plays there, and Carson Beck ain't going to be as good as Stetson Bennett, and you think they come back down to earth a little bit, okay, maybe I could talk myself into South Carolina pulls off the monster upset week 3. Suddenly they're in the driver's seat to win the SEC East, and suddenly that North Carolina game doesn't mean anything. So that's kind of how you can look at it. But again, to me, the more realistic one is to look at it, say, we want to get to a New Year's Six bowl. We want to get the double-digit wins. We got to be North Carolina week 1. It's going to be a lot of fun, man. And I know a ton of NFL scouts are going to be down there wanting to look at Drake May, wanting to look at Spencer Rattler, and see what these guys look like going into their money year.
Chris, taking a look at the rest of the SEC, we'll start in the East. And again, you mentioned the middle of the pack teams. I feel like that's where the big talking points are because, I feel like it's safe to say Georgia, SEC East champions, they're going to get back to Atlanta. I don't think that's a hot take at all. Outside of that, most are penciling in Tennessee, number 2 in the East, and then 3 through 6 really is kind of anybody's guess between Kentucky, Mizzou, South Carolina, Florida. I mean, heck, Chris, you could even make an argument that Vandy won't finish 7th. That's how we've probably got a crazy year of SEC football upcoming. So Georgia, number 1, but how do you shake out the rest of the SEC East in your mind?
Yeah, and this is where I go to the 3 guys, Joe Milton, Spencer Rattler, and Devin Leary. What do I have in those 3 guys? And who's going to play the best out of all of them? And, again, I think whoever emerges from that group is going to lead his team to the second best record in the East. Kentucky is very scary. They've got their best weapon of receivers they've had a long time with Dane Key, Barry and Brown. I mean, these were guys who were freshmen last year. They bring back Tavian Robinson. They bring back Liam Cohen. That's a big get for them. And then Devin Leary He was one of the top quarterbacks in the transfer portal. Kentucky got him. I've had a few people tell me they think he's going to have a more productive year this year than Will Levis had last year. And if that's the case, it means Kentucky's beating some people they're not supposed to. So Kentucky's in that group. Tennessee, we dissected, and I've talked about Joe Milton. I've even had some people say Tennessee could be. What happens if Milton isn't the guy? Do they go with the 5-star freshman Nico Yamaliava and he's starting year one? Like, that would be crazy to see. And then how good is that kid? What if he hits the ground running? And you're like, holy crap, we had this whole thing all wrong. It's not Milton, it's the Nico show. I don't know on that. We'll see. Florida, again, like Graham Mertz, everybody thinks stinks. I've watched the film on him. Not a fan. I think he can be a game manager. I do love Florida's run game. Like I said, I like their running backs. I like ATN. I like Montrell Johnson. I also think Austin Armstrong is one of the most underrated hires of the offseason. What we saw that, and I know it's a spring game, but go watch that spring game and watch how much more aggressive that Florida defense is. Florida put up more of a fight in the spring game than they did in any game last season. Like, that tells you right there that defense is going to be much improved or playing with much more effort. So, again, Florida, I think, I've kind of gone back and forth on them. When I saw that their win total was 5.5, I'm like, look, if that's the win total, then go ahead and fire Billy Napier right now. He's not the guy. If Florida, when they're down, can't get to 6-6, that's a problem. You're freaking Florida in the swamp. You're the Gators. You're a proud program. You play Tom Petty. You guys should be getting at least 6 wins. So I put Florida right about there. I put them about 6-6. Missouri's the one that, man, like, what are you? Like, every year, Eli Drinkwitz, like, they lose. Then they pull out some win out of their butt that you're like, how did they beat that team? They do this every year. So, but I think, to your point, like, could Missouri, is there a world where Missouri finishes dead last in the East and Vanderbilt finishes a hair ahead of them? Absolutely. Vandy, those were not fluke wins over Kentucky and Florida last year. Vandy got better as the year went along. And I have a buddy who works in the Vanderbilt program who told me a few weeks ago that A.J. Swan, they're seeing shades of Jay Cutler in him. Now, I'm not saying he is Jay Cutler, but they're seeing some of those leadership qualities, the strong arm and all that. So don't take Vandy lightly. That's my message to everybody in the East this year. If you got Vandy, don't just go ahead and pencil in a W. Put all your time and effort into beating the hell out of Vandy because, like I said, they're going to be a much improved team. So, yeah, to your point, everything's kind of wide open after Georgia. But, again, I could make a case for South Carolina. I could make a case for Tennessee. I could make a case for Kentucky. I think any of those three will go, 2, 3, 4 in the East. And, yeah, that's how I see it shaking out.
Chris, to the SEC West we go. Alabama or LSU? I know you're an LSU guy in regards to you're an alum of there. In your non-biased opinion, though, Alabama quarterback questions. I thought it was really interesting, and take the media poll for what it's worth, but I thought it was interesting that Bama was picked to win the SEC West. To me, it screamed the respect and the benefit of the doubt for Nick Saban because LSU's my pick, Chris, and I look on paper. I mean, they're stacked. I mean, they might not have the depth in Alabama or Georgia, but their starting 22 is as good as anybody's in the countries, and they have more knowns than Alabama does. Who do you got in your top of the SEC West, Bama or the LSU Tigers?
Yeah, I picked Bama to still win the West just because that game is in Tuscaloosa. If they were playing in Baton Rouge, I think I would have won LSU hands down. It's a tough place to play. I know Bama's got questions. I know they're replacing Bryce Young and Will Anderson and all these different pieces that they lost. They're still really good, though. They still have 4- and 5-star talent up and down the roster. And I keep telling people this, like, no matter who wins the quarterback battle, I know we're just automatically, like, demoting them. If Jalen Milroe is the guy and he ends up being the starter, he's going to be really good. Like, he's going to be in the Heisman conversation if Bama's undefeated and putting up a ton of points. And by the way, Milroe's got the running ability. So if he's throwing all over the yard and he's rushing for yards, he's going to put up some big numbers, and Bama's going to be really, really good. To your point on the media poll, the biggest quandary I had was, you're right, the media voted Bama to win the West. But you know what they also did? They voted Jaden Daniels as the #1 quarterback in the SEC. And so my argument is, if he's the best quarterback in the SEC, but he can't go in and beat Bama and Tuscaloosa when they're down, then maybe we should be looking at somebody else as the best quarterback in the SEC. So it was kind of a contradiction. If you think Jaden Daniels is the best quarterback in the SEC, then he should be able to go into Tuscaloosa and beat Alabama in a close game. That's my thought. But again, if the game was in Baton Rouge, I'd be leaning LSU. I went back and rewatched that game last year. Even with Bryce Young, man, LSU, they were going toe to toe, and LSU's offense was moving up and down the field in Alabama. Pete Golding is gone now, but I don't know if Kevin Steele solves all your problems defensively. Like, I don't know if they're going to be light years better with Kevin Steele. Keep in mind, Kevin Steele was at Miami last year. That defense gave up 40 points or more in like 5 games. Like, that defense was not studly. Now, I know Kevin Steele's going to have some of the best talent he's ever coached at Alabama, sure, but again, I'm big question marks with the coordinators there. I think Tommy Rees, he could run into a situation where he's in over his head. Bill O'Brien, for all the criticism he got, still brought you Bryce Young, the first Heisman Trophy winning quarterback in Alabama history, a call in the play. So all the griping and complaining about Pete Golding and Bill O'Brien, I would not be surprised at some point this year Bama fans start looking in the mirror going, wait a minute, we actually had it pretty good with Golding and O'Brien. And Kevin Steele and Tommy Rees, this isn't exactly an upgrade. So, yeah, big questions for Bama. But again, to me, you got to give Saban the benefit of the doubt. You just do. And again, their biggest game of the year is LSU. It's in Tuscaloosa, and it's later in the year too. That's the other part. If this game was in September, yeah, I think LSU could go get them. By November, they're going to know who their starting quarterback is. They're going to be settled in, and I think Bama's going to win that game. It's going to be a tough one for LSU. So. We'll see. I'm not going to argue with anybody who wants to pick LSU to win the West. I think, like you said, they're super talented and all that. But LSU needs to go take care of business against Florida State. That's no gimme right there. I mean, they could be starting their season 0-1 once again, having to pick up the scraps and starting off on the wrong foot.
Chris, the rest of the SEC West, like you mentioned, who knows what's going to happen with Texas A&M, although the Aggies find themselves ranked in the preseason AP top 25, and I think that's just a testament to the way they've recruited all the talent on that roster. And I really would say this, Chris, there's no excuse for A&M to win less than 8 games this year. I mean, you could argue less than 9-3 would be inexcusable with the way they've recruited and all that talent they've stocked up. But, Texas A&M, Arkansas, Mississippi State, Ole Miss, Auburn, how do you think it shakes out? Because I look at the SEC West as a ton of quality football teams, ton of 50-50 football games, which sets up for a wild season. I mean, I think, and I predicted, I don't think there's a team in the SEC West that doesn't go to a bowl game. I think there's a lot of really high-quality football teams that when they play their A game, they can beat nearly anybody in this conference. They play their C or D game, things get dicey. But how do you think it shakes out? I mean, I think we're set up for one of the more exciting seasons of SEC football just because of the competitiveness in that side of the SEC, if you will.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of people. The trendy kind of topic has been, man, Hugh Freeze at Auburn. What a good coach. He's going to get Auburn going, and they're going to upset some people and all this. I think they're still a year off. I think Hugh Freeze getting in there. He's a great coach. Phil Montgomery, great OC. I think, Peyton Thorne coming in from Michigan State is obviously going to give them way more than what Robbie Ashford would give them as a starter. I think Jarquez Hunter could be very good at running back, but I got big questions. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if Auburn goes 6-6, but finishes dead last in the SEC West. So to your point, like, everyone on the West side goes bowling. I don't think anybody's finishing below that. But I could see a world where Mississippi State goes 7-5, wins the head-to-head, and they finish second to last. And then it's kind of, all right, who after that? Arkansas is, man, they like always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Like, even with KJ Jefferson coming back, one of the best quarterbacks in the SEC, even with Rocket Sanders coming back, one of the best running backs in the SEC, people are still picking Arkansas to be like, yeah, 7 wins, maybe 8. Like, we can never get over that hump. And I think that's kind of partly on Sam Pittman. I think he's a good coach. He's a great human being. He's a great person. He's a great recruiter. He's just not an elite head coach. And I think we can be okay saying that. That's fine. Ed Ogeron was kind of in the same boat. Great CEO, great mediator. Man, he hit the jackpot. He hit the lottery when he got Joe Burrow to come in, and Joe Brady came in, and Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, and like, he hit the jackpot lottery of that one year and wins a championship. Maybe that could happen down the road for Sam Pittman, but I just don't think that's happening this year. So I kind of take Arkansas out. What is Ole Miss? Like, Jackson Dart, it seems like he's going to be the guy. They said he's cut down on turnovers. It's still a battle between him and Spencer Sanders, but you have the best running back in the SEC in Quinshon Judkins. They're going to run the ball a lot. That defense was bad, though, last year. And everything I've at least studied throughout this offseason is I don't think it's getting better overnight. I think Pete Golding's recruiting very well. They're bringing in some dogs for 2024 and 2025. But this year, I think Ole Miss's defense is going to be bad again. They're going to have to win games 41-40, those kind of like shootout type games. I don't know if they'll be able to do that much. So that's kind of how I think the West is gonna shake out. And then A&M is the ultimate wild card. I'm with you. Like, I asked Cole Kublik at SEC Media Days, I said, what's the floor for Jimbo to keep his job? Like, I was like 6-6, 7-5. Cole goes, I don't know if 7-5 does it. Like, for what they're paying him and the expectations there, like, we agree with you. 8 wins has to be the floor for Jimbo to stick around. And all the talk about buyout and all that, dude, the Aggies and the oil money, it's endless. They don't care. Like, and there's desperation. I was trying to explain this to a friend of mine who's an LSU fan. I said, dude, you've experienced the mountaintop. You've won championships. They've never had that at A&M. These people have not. So you take a rich fan base that's hungry for success, that will write a check for anything. What do you need? That's how they got the #1 recruiting class a couple years ago. Their fan base just wrote a check. Here, how much do you need, Jimbo? You got it. So this is a guy who's got all the resources in the world. They have a new indoor facility. They're building more add-ons to Kyle Field. Like, everything in the world you could ever want, A&M has. They just don't have the coaching. Jimbo just has not gotten it done on the field. The on-field success has not been there. So that's a fan base that's been patient, but they're not patient anymore. And if they don't see market improvement in College Station this year, Jimbo's going to be gone. The Petrino hire is very sexy, man. It's intriguing from a standpoint of, if it hits, this could work out really well. If it doesn't, man, we're in for a treat of yell fest and drama and everything that we like from a distance to kind of go, oh man, what a train wreck. Oh, I called that. Petrino and Jimbo butting heads. Oh yeah, I saw that one coming. So we're all ready to see that thing blow up. But if it doesn't, keep in mind, this is a guy who coached Ryan Mallett at Arkansas. They were like top 5 in the country going into the LSU game that year. Lamar Jackson won a Heisman under his watch. I mean, he's had good offensive success. We'll see if he can do that with Connor Wegman. They've got great weapons around. I mean, Evan Stewart, Anais Smith, weapons galore. The problem is, can they put it all together? And Jimbo, can he defer? Nick Saban was smart enough to do it years ago. Nick Saban said, Lane Kiffin, God, I hate that guy. But let's bring him in. Let's run the offense. He had the humility enough to step back. I don't know if Jimbo has that humility enough to say, I'm giving you full reins, Bobby. You run the offense. He's going to tinker, and it's going to cost him.
Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC. Chris, before I get you out of here, let's go back to the Gamecocks really quickly. You've mentioned 10 wins a lot, and obviously you're a believer in Shane Beamer, what they're doing at South Carolina. What's the one thing you look at this South Carolina football team in this season? If you had to pick one thing, tons of question marks across the board, what's the one thing you feel like South Carolina season most hinges on? Like, this thing, if it works out, they'll overachieve, they'll challenge for 9+ wins. If it doesn't, the season goes the other way. Is there one thing that you think is kind of the key cog in this machine that's got to work out for the Gamecocks this year?
Yeah, I know I mentioned it, but it's the O-line. I mean, Ja'Kai Moore, Trey Jones, Lee Wanamaker, those guys, if they are gelling and they're playing as a unit and they're run blocking and they're pass protecting and Spencer does not have pressure in his face, I'll be curious to see how Coach Loggins, do they have more rollouts for him, more bootleg action, just stuff to get him out if the O-line's not protecting. But that it's as simple as that to me. I mean, if that unit can be, Kentucky, they talk about the big blue wall. Other places it's all about the wall. Can South Carolina build that wall? If you've got that wall and that offensive line is doing their job and they're protecting, man, the sky's the limit for this South Carolina team. And who knows, man? You go into Georgia and you're blocking those guys, and Spencer's got time, and you're in a little bit of a shootout in Athens. Who knows, dude? But it all starts up front. You got to win those one-on-one battles. And again, that's still is my biggest concern with the South Carolina team. But if they go out there and they prove it and they do it, dude, we're talking about an epic season in South Carolina.
Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC, does a fantastic job. Chris, let everybody know where they can check out your work.
Yeah, just search Locked on SEC wherever you get your podcast. We got the YouTube version up, and still we've had a bunch of our interviews over the last couple of weeks still from SEC Media Days. A lot of our great experts and people like that. We'll have an interview later this week with the great Phil Steele. Always fun to get his perspective across the SEC. He's got the numbers to back it up. You can disagree with him, but that dude did the research, and he's got the numbers. So check that out, Locked on SEC, wherever you get your podcast.
Chris, I appreciate you taking the time, my friend. Enjoyed this. Let's definitely do it again soon.
Yeah, man. Sounds good. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Take care. Great stuff, guys, from Chris Gordy, Locked On SEC. Really, really good stuff as we talk Gamecocks, SEC football, and more. That being said, we're going to jump into a quick break. We got the Q&A Power Hour on the other side. We're taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more here on this Monday. You're tuned in to the Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Muscle Dougie, ho. Dougie, ho.
All right, so what's up, guys? We're back here on this Monday, August 14th, 2023. Appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. The Q&A Power Hour is officially underway. We're taking your questions, comments, calls, 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Monday. Again, appreciate each and every single one of you tuning in. We'll go back through your questions on YouTube. Let's get into these. Also, the Big Cock Club Discord. Thank you so much to those tuning in the TDC Questions channel. You guys seem to really enjoy. Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC. I want to say thank you to Chris. That was an electric conversation. GA says Gordy has an A-plus voice. Yeah, he does. He does. He's got that Bayou voice, right? That Bayou voice. Let's see. Just going back through. Shout out to the AP poll, by the way, for making me look like an idiot, dude. Dude, they dropped it right at noon, and you click the link, and I just assumed the AP poll was updated. It had not been updated yet. It was the AP poll from last year, so that's why I said South Carolina's 23rd, UNC's unranked. That was, of course, inaccurate. So we know now the Gamecocks find themselves unranked, UNC 21st. Gamecocks will go into that first game as the underdog. John Edwards says, can the season get here? Indeed, it's close. 19 days. He said, Beamer's right, y'all. Injuries happen. It's football. Indeed, John Edwards. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
From Robbie Davis, Zaxby's Hall of Famer.
Robbie Davis, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm doing good. You ready for my game-by-game predictions? I got it right here, ready to go.
I am ready for your game-by-game predictions. Robbie, hope you had a fantastic weekend. Appreciate you calling in. The floor is yours, my friend.
Okay. UNC, I have us winning that game. I originally had it 31-17, but I think we wind up winning 37 or 31-20.
Okay.
And then Georgia, that's going to be an ass whooping.
Well, you forgot Furman in week 2 now. What about Furman in week 2?
Oh, sorry. They're really close together. My stepdad put this together. They're really close together. Okay, Furman, that's a W. Okay, that'll be 40. I'd say 48-10. We give up a touchdown and a field goal. That's it.
Okay.
Georgia, we're going to get our brains beat in. I say 48-3. And then Mississippi State, I honestly, since we probably don't have to deal with the air raid, I believe that we can win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So I got us winning this. I got us winning against Mississippi State, 35-27.
Okay.
And then Tennessee, I think we'll lose to Tennessee by a lot. So I think we'll lose 40-14 at Tennessee. And I think we will beat Florida 35-28.
Okay, 4-2 at the halfway point. 4-2 at the halfway point with the loss to Georgia and Tennessee. All right, continue.
Missouri, we have not played well against Mizzou the last few years, so I think we lose to Mizzou by a score of 35-28.
Okay.
A&M, I think they'll have revenge on their minds, so I think we lose to A&M, but we keep it close, close somewhat, 35-21. Jacksonville State, that'll be a win. I would say I've been going back and forth with this one, either 42-0 or 48-0.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So I'm going to go with 42-0. And then Vandy, I think our team will be in a really good place at this point. So I think we got Vandy. We'll beat Vandy by a score of 35-14. And then Kentucky, I think we can get another win over Kentucky. So I got us beating Kentucky 35-28. And then against Clemson at home, I think the special teams will play a major part again. So I got us beating Clemson 35-28.
8-4 for Robbie Davis. Am I correct there? 8-4?
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Robbie, I will sign up for that. I will sign up for that in a heartbeat, my friend. Robbie Davis, officially the Zaxby's Hall of Famer prediction. 8-4. Okay. Losses to, let me go back, Georgia, Tennessee, Missouri, and A&M, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. There you go. There are your Robbie Davis predictions. There are your Robbie Davis. I'm sure somebody out there wrote these down. If not, we could just always go back and listen to it, and I'll get it written down. And I know you've got it written down, obviously, as well. So 8-4. I mean, I don't think there's a Gamecock out there that would not sign up for an 8-4 season with a win over Clemson, with a win. So
I would take
well
an
done.
8-4 season with a bowl win.
Mm-hmm.
For sure. So that's my predictions. And I'm starting to go a little crazy because I'm so ready for football season to get here.
Mm-hmm.
I told Rod, a.k.a. Mariner 26, I told him while we were door dashing yesterday, I said, I can guarantee you the week of game one, I'm not going to be able to sleep. And especially the day before, I'm probably going to stay up till I can't keep my eyes open just so I can actually sleep.
I can't wait either, Robbie. I'm excited. Looking forward to it, man. It's going to be a blast. I cannot wait for it.
But those are my predictions. And so that's all. That's it. And I definitely think also, last thing that I'm out of here, I think at some point this season, it might end up being against Furman or Jacksonville State or maybe even Vandy. But I think in at least two of those three games, if Joyner's still playing running back, I think those three games could have a freaking heyday.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I got. Gave you my predictions, and now I'm done.
Robbie, that was electric, my friend. I appreciate you doing that, and fingers crossed they come true.
Me too, buddy. Me too. All right, man. I'm going to get off of here and let everybody else chime in or call in or whatever.
All right, Robbie. Hey, you're the man. I appreciate you. We'll talk soon.
You too, buddy.
Yeah,
all
man.
right.
Take care. Great stuff from Robbie Davis, guys. Robbie's got 8-4. And I believe, 4-4 in SEC play? Yeah, Robbie Davis loves the number 35. That is for sure. The number 35. So. Guys, let's jump to the phone lines here.
Call from
Will from Dirty Myrtle.
Will, what's going on, my friend? How are you?
I'm a little bit heated right now that the AP left us out, man. I mean, I can't believe that the way we ended that season last year with the two big wins over top 25 teams and the momentum we got coming into this year with the matchup on game day that we didn't get at least that 25th spot.
Mm-hmm.
I have to say I'm a little bit surprised by that. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, especially when you look at some of those in the top 25. I mean, Oklahoma's suspect. Texas A&M, they got tons of talent, but, they went 5-7 last year.
They were 5-7.
Right?
Yeah,
They went
like,
5-7, 5-7. Tulane. I mean, Tulane's a very good team, but Tulane 24th, Iowa at 25th. So South Carolina at 27th, just on the outside looking in. But it is unfortunate because you miss out on the, selling the matchup as like a top 25 game, and it's just one of those things, man. If South Carolina wants respect, they got to go earn it. So that's it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I know that some will argue, hey, they earned it at the end of last year, but you got to go do it again and do it again and see more. And, you start to get more and more of the benefit of the doubt, and, fair, unfair, it's just where you're at. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. We'll see if, the Gamecocks can earn that respect. But, I wasn't totally surprised, but it wouldn't have shocked me if they were ranked either, because South Carolina was in so many projected preseason top 25s. So I don't know, man. We'll, have to see if you can go out there and earn that respect in week 1.
Yeah, my thought on it is just the way that things play out. We're going to have a tough time getting, if we were already starting ranked and we got a loss and we lost to Georgia, but like starting off not ranked, if we start out 1 and 2, we'll be lucky to make it back into the top 25 or make it to the top 25 by the end of the season. But separate thought, Nick Harbor. I had said this a long time ago to you on the airwaves about how people needed to temper their expectations on this kid. Freak athlete. I mean, he has a chance to really be special, but people got to understand he never played wide receiver in high school. He played a little tight end, but his main focus at that point was defensive end. And it's going to take him some time to get into, wide receiver form, being able to run the routes. It's not just running fast and catching. You got a lot that goes into it, especially in the SEC. So, let's just hold out hope that maybe towards the end of the season he gets it, and really, but I don't think that it's going to be a case if he's going to be really heavily contributing, especially the first half of the year. Also, what I heard about Braswell, I think he might actually have a chance to, get some playing time early, possibly make an impact. But that's about all I had to say, brother. I'll hang up and listen.
Will, I appreciate the call, man. Really good stuff as always. And, I'll echo what Will from Dirty Myrtle had to say about Nicholas Harbor. We talked about him last week, and the reports out of camp is that he's, there's an adjustment period. I think that's putting it kindly, that he's adjusting to college football. And I mean, listen, he's huge. He's a big kid, very fast. He's got all the tools, but there's more to being a really, really good wide receiver than being fast and being big. And so, I mean, it's a guy that I think they're going to find creative ways to get Nick Harbor the football to utilize that skill set. But early on, is he, out of the gate week 1, is he going to make a huge contribution at wide receiver? I don't know that he is. You know what I mean? I think people, to Will's point, need to come in this season with realistic expectations, not putting too much on this kid. And, I will look at it this way. This is how I'm approaching it. If he comes out and has 100 yards receiving week 1 against UNC or God forbid against Georgia or whatever early in the season, I will be pleasantly surprised. But that is not my expectation. I would like to see, my expectation for Nick Harbor is by game 5, game 6, really be getting in the swing of things and be in that top 3 or 4 wide receiver rotation, if you will. But, there's a lot to learn for him, and learning the nuance of the position. And, I think it's a real thing. And again, it's what we're hearing coming out of fall camp. And then on the DJ Braswell thing, I definitely think DJ Braswell is going to factor in. I mean, I think the running back position, you heard Shane Beamer after the scrimmage. Yes, DeCarrion Joyner's RB1. Yes, he's going to get those first opportunities. I think it's wide open outside of that. I really, truly believe this thing is wide open outside of, outside of DeCarrion Joyner being RB1. I really believe that. Let's see. All right, we're going to get back through your questions on YouTube. Tons of questions here I did not get into. Let's see. Todd Smith says, Beamer will keep receipts. I hear you. Jeff Gulledge says, seems Kentucky's getting slept on in the preseason. I feel like they're a top 25 team. Mark Anderson, Notre Dame ranked 13th, and we should have beat them. Chase Floyd says, Tulane beat Southern Cal in the bowl game. They should be ranked. I mean, I hear you. No doubt. I hear you. I think Tulane's very good. That game against Ole Miss week 2 or 3 or whenever it is going to be a really, really good game. Let's see. Travi, ESPN coaches poll a little different. What you're saying, yeah, the AP and the coaches are a little bit different. A little bit different. Travis says Texas A&M's 25. Yeah, those two polls are a little bit different. John Edwards says, stuns me a little bit that we're not ranked. Ethan K, whatever it talks about Penn State, but they're consistently always in the top 15 or so every year. 7 is too high. Ethan, some folks think they could be a playoff team. There's a lot of people out there high on Penn State. A lot of people high on Penn State. Gavin says, this is why I appreciate Chris's takes. 100% realistic and non-biased. Gavin, appreciate you. John Edward, Florida State's right where they deserve to be. He also says Oklahoma's overrated. John Edward says Notre Dame with Hartman are upgrade at quarterback. They'll be good. Chase Floyd, win week 1 and you're ranked week 2. It works itself out. Indeed. Indeed. Ethan K says Hope Juice and Knox will be good to go for week 1. Yeah, Juice Wells actually tweeting within the last, 40 minutes or so. He says on his tweet, says, quote, stop asking me if I'm good. I'm great. That's all the tweet says. Stop asking me if I'm good. I'm great. So, what does it mean? We shall see. And I'll say this too because I think I saw John Edwards say, stop talking about Juice Wells. Non-story. He's fine. John Edward, I'm sorry, but I'm not abiding by that. I think this is absolutely a story. I hear what Juice Wells is saying on Twitter. Great. Dude, fingers crossed he's playing. I'm not sitting here telling you he's not playing, but I'm also not sitting here and telling you it's 110%. No doubt he's 100% healthy right now, and he's going to play. Based off what he says and Beamer says he's going to play. We'll leave it at that, but it's something to watch. That's all I said. I'm not deeming him out of the game, but it's something to watch. It's something to keep an eye on, even when he comes back to practice. Making sure you don't re-aggravate something like that. He's going to play. Is he actually 100%? Is he 90%? Is he 80%? I'm just saying it's something to keep an eye on. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Spur Daddy, good. I'm good with not being ranked going into UNC game. Gives Coach Beamer that motivating fire to tell the players they have been disrespected. Playing the disrespect card. I mean, yeah, sure. Let's see. Bisbee says, what about this heat? How's it going to affect us week 1? I mean, you're training in the heat. I think you're training in the heat. I think you'll be ready for it. John Edward, until Beamer declares Juice out, I'll act as if he'll be ready. I mean, I think that's fair too. Listen, when I'm breaking down this game, as we get closer, we get to game week, until I hear that Juice Wells ain't playing, I'm going to assume he's playing. Unless I hear different from my people that I trust. But I'll just say this. Multiple folks reached out to me. They all said the same thing. Broken pinky toe, needs surgery. His status for week 1 is questionable. I mean, guys, I don't think that's unfair to just say it's questionable. Most of those folks are saying he's going to be out week 1. But I just say my takeaway from it is this. Are those just rumors? They very well could be. Is Juice Wells 100%? No, that's confirmed. He's not practicing the next week. So there's something there. It may not be to the severity that we initially heard. Something is there, though. And nobody's acting like it's DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 2 or DEFCON 1. Forgive me, though, for being a little bit intrigued that, hey, South Carolina's best weapon may not play against North Carolina in a game that you're an underdog and you need all hands on deck. Forgive me, I guess. If that's my crime, then I'll happily be labeled guilty because that's where we stand with everything. So Juice Wells throws up a tweet. He's not good. He's great. So take it for what it's worth, and we'll see what happens when we get closer to kickoff. Guys, we're going to jump into a quick break on the other side. We'll keep the convo rolling, taking your questions, your comments, your calls, and more on the other side. You're tuned in, The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Marshall Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back here on this Monday, August the 14th, 2023. Taking your questions, comments, calls at 843-790-3377. That's 843-790-3377 here on this Monday. Do y'all think I'm being pessimistic in the preseason? Because apparently our guy, Dabble Loggins Enjoyer, a.k.a. Dalton, he thinks I'm being overly pessimistic. Not just, it must be overly pessimistic, because to call me pessimistic would mean I'm leaning that way versus optimistic. Y'all think I'm being pessimistic? That's interesting. That's interesting. Either way, some people take the realism for pessimism, and that's a mistake, but it's just the way people take things. That's why when you do this, guys, you have to be comfortable with, you know what? I wake up every day. When I give my grades, I tell you this. I wake up, I evaluate the information, I go with my gut, I go with what my gut tells me, I look at it honestly, and I speak my truth. And I am detached from the way people consume that, the way they interpret it, if they take it personally, if it bothers them, that means nothing to me. And you have to be detached from that side of it. Because if you're always chasing giving your audience a positive feeling, well, guess what? At that point, you're a sunshine pumper. Nobody takes what you say seriously, and your word means nothing. So I can never promise to make you feel warm and fuzzy inside. What I can promise is to be real with you. Whether you take that as optimism or pessimism or what have you, that's up to you. That's up to you. It's kind of funny, though. I've had people label me as being too optimistic at times. I put out a clip out there saying, Carolina, I think they could beat Tennessee. That could be the game that nobody thinks they're going to win. They win. Oh, you're being too optimistic. Get out of here. So it's like, whatever. That's why keeping it real is the number one, because people are going to label you and judge you no matter what either way. So just keep it a buck. You never have to worry. Let's jump to the phone lines here.
From
Peyton, what's up, man? How are you?
Good. How about yourself, Chris? What you say, man?
I'm doing fantastic, my friend. Excited for the week ahead, excited for kickoff, and excited to chat with you, man. Thanks for calling in. What's up?
So first things first, man, I don't think you're being pessimistic, dude. I really don't. I think you're being objective, honest, and real, and that's the best part of my language. That's the best fucking part of this show, man. You know, that you don't give these unrealistic takes where, oh yeah, we're going to go 10-2 this year, we're going 11-1, and this and this and this. You don't do that, and that is one of the main reasons why this show is so enjoyable. So I just wanted to say that.
Appreciate you. I appreciate that greatly. So
yeah, man, it's just for people that say that you're pessimistic, they don't understand. They don't get the fact that, you know, you're not in it to make people happy. You're in it to be honest, and in it to speak your truth, like you said. But to talk a little ball, UNC, man, that matchup, I think us being unranked by both polls, I think that's going to give us extra fuel and even more intensity going into this game. Because, you know, I think, you know, Beamer's very good. Beamer's a very good motivator, and he's gonna take every little dig that the media or whoever gives South Carolina. He's gonna take whatever dig is available, and he's gonna exploit it, and he's gonna make sure that this team knows nobody's counting you in. Nobody. There's very few people out there that think we're gonna win versus UNC, and think that we're even going to finish 7-5 plus. So I think it's just a little bit of hot sauce added onto this. What do you think?
I mean, definitely, man. Listen, these coaches, they use anything they can for motivation. Certainly Beamer's a guy that he does that. I mean, we all know about the fire and the energy and the intensity. And, you know, certainly I don't know if people heard this because it was kind of on just a random radio show he went on, but you know, he was asked a couple months ago about, you know, do you pay attention to spreads and you know, the way people are talking about your team, because you guys are a 26 point underdog from, you know, against the Georgia Bulldogs, and you have no chance. Have you looked at that? Is it something you talk about? And, he admitted that, we've seen it. Yeah, we talk about it. We know it's there because, there's no getting around it. These guys are all on social media. They know what's going on. So, not being ranked and UNC being the ranked team and then being the favorite, I think certainly gives you, I think Jake Crane put it best. Once toe meets leather on the field, it doesn't matter because at that point, it's just football. It's execution. Who has a better job? What it helps you in your preparation and, do that extra rep, make sure you're giving 110%, not slacking off and not feeling entitled, and not saying they would do that if, the roles are reversed and you're the favorite, but you see what I'm saying, right? It gives you that extra edge, that extra juice. So, but I tell you, man, Peyton, I got to tell you, I can't wait to talk South Carolina, North Carolina, because I think I don't understand why. I think the Gamecocks very well could win this game. I mean, I picked in my prediction South Carolina to win this game.
Oh, yeah.
I think this is a coin flip game.
do.
I really do. Like, I'm excited to talk about it because I think these are two teams that are very similar. I think it's very much so a coin flip game. Pair of new OCs, pair of interesting quarterbacks, suspect running game, suspect line of scrimmage, weapons on the – I mean, it's just – there are so many parallels between these two, and I think that's going to make for one hell of a football game. So I think there's a lot of key matchups in this game, the importance of the game for both sides, getting the season started off on a good note. This is a massive game for UNC also. They need their, after the way they finished 2022, they need to get their season off started with a bang. So, and then, of course, South Carolina, year 3 of Beamer, speaks for itself. So I can't wait to start talking this game, man. But certainly I think the Gamecocks, I think you could see them enter with an edge. But, we'll see how much that matters come game day.
That's right. And, to talk about like you said, the importance of the preparation, guys holding guys accountable in practice. Like you said, players managing players about not slacking off and calling guys out and making sure everybody's on their shit for this game. It's a very important game. We say that, we could afford to lose this game and still have a good season, but that's not how the players see this at all. The players are going into this game with, we got to prove ourselves, and we have to prove not only to UNC, but we got to prove to pretty much the country that, South Carolina is more than just on the up and up. We're building something special. So I think I just think it's shaping up to be that way.
I think this is definitely one, Peyton, I'll say this. I think if you're going to match last year's win total, fair or unfair, a lot of fans, they quantify progress solely based off of wins. Like, it doesn't matter if you go 7-5 this year and all 5 of those games you lose by a touchdown or less. If you don't win more than you won last year, a lot of people, fairly or unfairly, will say, okay, you didn't progress. You didn't get better. You were a worse team. You took a step back. If you're going to get to the 8-win mark or more, I think UNC's got to be one of those 8. Like, I don't think it's a must win in the sense your season's over if you lose, but I think you need to beat UNC to get to that 8-win mark. I really do, because of the challenges of the schedule. And we actually just posted here that Brad Crawford, our good buddy, pointed out South Carolina teams facing the most AP top 25 opponents this fall. South Carolina is tied for first. They have 5 on their schedule. So, I mean, it's a brutal schedule, and nothing out of the ordinary though for the Gamecocks.
That's right, man. Like, it's nothing new. We've got either the first or second toughest schedule in the country, year in, year out. This is nothing new. And what did we have last year? I mean, our schedule was, I don't know if it was the toughest, but it was, I know for sure it had to have been top 3 or at least top 5. But, to extend the must-win mark in terms of like big games and reaching that 8-4 mark, I would say the big 4, right? So the big 4 being UNC, Georgia, Tennessee, and Clemson, right? Those big 4 games. If I think in order for us to go 8-4, I think we have got to find a way to win at least 2 of those games, 2 of those 4 games, because that spells, we're not taking a step back. We're still beating the teams that or we're beating the teams again that, we weren't necessarily supposed to, that are, I don't know how Clemson's going to shape out this year. I really don't. But if they're top 10 come the time that we play them and we manage to win that game again, that serves as kind of a validation to say, hey, Carolina's here to stay. So I think, like I said, those big games, those big four, I think we got to find a way to win at least 2 of those 4 games to reach that 8-4 mark.
I mean, I tell you this, man. I think if you win 1 out of Georgia, Tennessee, and Clemson, you had a really good season. I tell you that. I think you had a really, really, really good season. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And me and you talked about it a while ago. You can't afford to stub your toe against a Florida or against a Missouri. If you want to keep building, and if you want to keep reaching this 8-win mark, or God forbid 9 or 10, you cannot afford to stub your toe against a team that more than likely is going to go either 5-7, 6-6. You got to win the games you're supposed to, in my opinion. So I think that's going to be big going forward.
Indeed. Peyton, well said, my friend. Really, really good stuff as always. And I appreciate the kind words from you, truly. It's always a pleasure chatting with you.
Yeah, man, absolutely, Chris. Well, I'll go ahead and get off of here, man. Try to get in some damn AC. And we'll holler at you later, man. Thanks, Birds Up Show. Go Cox, Chris. Thanks, man.
Appreciate you, Peyton. You're the man. I'll tell you this to his point. It's been a really hot August, has it not? Like, it has been really hot over the last 2 weeks or so. Either way, speaking of Peyton's points, that's just the thing, man, when you look at this schedule. And like I said, I know we're all to a degree talked out, right? I mean, we could talk about it forever, but at the same time, it's like, our buddy Chris Marler hit me up yesterday and he said, I feel like, and I told him we're at the point right now where we have so much to talk about, but nothing to talk about, because it's like, we've almost talked out all the preseason stuff, but you look at the schedule and it's like, I mean, guys, if you told me that South Carolina played their best game every game this season, well, then I tell you it's 9-3, a no-brainer. I mean, I think 10-2 could be a possibility. But guys, let me ask you a question. For those of you out there picking 10-2, a win over Georgia, and you're sitting here telling me that 10 wins is going to happen, and South Carolina is going to play their A-plus game every single week, I have a question for you. How long have you been watching South Carolina football? Like, did you just start watching the Tennessee game last year? Have you not watched South Carolina football? Do you actually think this team, with all the question marks, they're going to play their A-plus game from game 1 to game 12, They're going to play their A-plus game for all 13 weeks, and there's going to be no lapse at all. Do you actually believe that? How long have you been watching South Carolina football? Because there's no way. This team has more questions now than they had last year. And you're telling me they're going to be just exponentially better from week 1 to week 13? Like, the people who are picking 10 wins need to be challenged on that prediction. They need to be challenged. Yes, if South Carolina plays their best game, they'll beat Florida. They'll beat Missouri. They'll beat Kentucky. They'll probably beat Tennessee. They might beat Texas A&M. But, like, do you actually think Carolina's going to show up and play their bro, the best teams in school history won 10 regular season games. Are you telling me right now that this 2023 Gamecocks team is as good as the 2011, 12, or 13 teams? Is that what you're saying? I think people do not give it enough credit how incredible a 10-win season would be. Like, some people don't. Even a 9-win season. The best teams in school history, led by players such as Connor Shaw, Jadeveon Clowney, Marcus Lattimore, DJ Swearinger, like Alshon Jeffrey, the greatest players this school has ever seen. Those teams won 10 regular season games. So you're telling me this team is going to win 10 games? Would you stack this team up against those teams? Come on, man. Nobody's out here trying to be pessimistic, but it's more damaging to be overly optimistic and delusional than it is to be realistic, erring on the side of caution. Like, you're doing yourself no favors. And you know what? I respect the hell out of it for people who want to be super optimistic going into a season. Like, listen, I'm an optimistic Gamecock to a fault, guys. I wake up every Saturday on game day. I spend all week being objective, but no matter what my prediction is, guess what? I bleed garnet and black, and I think of the 100 reasons why that if this, and this happen, South Carolina can win the game. Every single Saturday that happens to me. But I also believe in just keeping it real, man. Just being realistic. I'm not trying to – I'm giving the same speech I did last year. I got to stop doing that. But I'm not trying to crush anybody's dreams and hopes and all that. But, like, dude, when you pick a 10-win season, really think about how good that is. Really think about it. South Carolina football has won 10 or more games in the season 4 times in their history. Guys, Carolina's won 8 or more games, 15 times? They've won 9 or more games 7 times. 7 times in over 100 years of football. Shane Beamer's going to get Carolina there. He's going to get them there. I believe that. I believe Shane Beamer is going to get Carolina there. Is it this season? I don't know. But I don't know, man. Like, labeling me pessimistic because I acknowledge the real question marks this football team has. Nah, you missing the mark, my guy. I respect all predictions. I respect all predictions. But it doesn't mean I have to agree. Either way, listen, from your lips to God's ears, I pray to the good Lord above that Carolina goes 10-2 or 11-1 or whatever it might be. Either way. I'm not trying to be doom and gloom. Doom and gloom on a Monday. Nah. I just think people really have to grasp like how incredible a 10-win season would be. Like, you have to be so good, dude. The level of consistency, like, you don't just win 10 games in the SEC by accident. Y'all know that. We all know that. Anyways, really quick, getting back to your questions because we are about to jump into a break. Bake SC, if you could add any past Gamecock player to the roster to be, I'd go Marcus Lattimore. I think that's where this team, you had a great running back to this roster. All of a sudden, I think we're cooking offensively. Let's see. Going through your questions. Humbucker, do you think Jimbo at Texas A&M is gone if he drops the big games the first half of the season before they play South Carolina? Miami, Auburn, Arkansas, Bama, Tennessee, etc. Yeah, if they lose to Miami and Auburn, he's in trouble. He's in huge trouble for sure. Guys, we'll jump into one final break. On the other side, we'll close out the show with your questions, your comments, your calls, and more as we end this Monday in style. You're tuned in to The Daily Crow. The Daily Crow is brought to you by our friends at Carolina Cigars. Carolina Cigars has been in operation since 2008, recently taken over by the Peterson family in 2020. Whether you're new to the cigar scene or whether you've been enjoying cigars your entire life, Carolina Cigars has the expertise and knowledge to make your visit to their shop enjoyable. Stop by for a fine cigar and experience their classic cigar lounge where people come together, share conversations, and become friends. So if you're into cigars and you're on Hilton Head Island, you really do need to go by and see them. They offer same-day shipping nationwide, free delivery island-wide for weddings and all special occasions. They're also proud to offer premium cigars at 9 outside humidor locations around Hilton Head Island, and they have special events throughout the year as well. They want to talk to you. They want to engage. They want to share with you their cigar selection they're very proud of and their beautiful cigar lounge. When you're in the Low Country, there's only one place for cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, and there's only one place I get my cigars. That's Carolina Cigars, Hilton Head Island's premier cigar merchant. Come and share your passion. It's all here at Carolina Cigars. Give them a follow on Instagram at Carolina_cigars, or give them a call today at 843-681-8600. That's 843-681-8600. Smoke them if you got them, and tell them that Chris from the Spurs Up Show sent ya. Daily Crow is also sponsored by Rhine Law Firm, LLC, principally managed by James R. Rhine Jr., located at 1350 Ashley River Road, Suite 650, Charleston, South Carolina, 29407, serving the greater Charleston area.
Marshall Dougie, ho.
All right, guys, we're back. Final 10 minutes or so here on this Monday, August 14th, 2023. Let me say thank you to everybody tuning in. Looks like we've had a lot of new folks come in on the airwaves. Be sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube. Hit that bell icon as well so you get notifications of when we go live, when we drop new video content, etc. Tonight, the season simulation series will continue. South Carolina taking on Kentucky. And then, of course, tomorrow night, we've got the Clemson game, guys. We beat Vanderbilt last night. We sit 6-4, 4-3 in SEC play. Going to be a lot of fun. And again, guys, thank you all so much for the love, the support. Thank you all. Thank you all for supporting Chris Gordy, Locked on SEC, hour number 2. That was a fantastic conversation. Today has flown by on TDC, and it's because of you all. You all bring the heat, and I'm excited. Let me also say this, guys, in the 2023 season, I am not pessimistic about the season. I'm excited. That excitedness is also paired with anxiousness. And I am nervous for certain parts of this football team because it feels as if certain parts of this football team, admittedly, are being held together by Scotch tape. And there are a couple of things, whether it be the offensive line, it be the running back room, it be the run defense, it be Spencer Rattler's consistencies, it'd be a brand new OC. Now it'd be the health of Juice Wells. Whatever it is, replacing a pair of your top corners. Like, there are just a lot of things that, like, need to work out well and there are so many question marks that need to be answered in a positive manner. And if they're not, this thing could get sideways really quickly. I'm nervous. Like, I'm nervous about certain things. We've reached that point. We've been breaking this thing down. We're continuing to do so, but we're reaching the point where I'm nervous. You know, we're less than 3 weeks away till kick. I'm nervous for what's to come. I know because of what Shane Beamer and company have done, the way they have overachieved, that certain things are going to work out better than expected. We know that for a fact. But with the question marks, the early season schedule, having to face the North Carolina Tar Heels to open up, obviously Georgia on the road, Tennessee on the road, a tricky Mississippi State game, even Florida. I'm nervous. I mean, South Carolina, you think about what they had last year, right? First 6 games, you had teams like Georgia State, Charlotte, SC State. The front half of your schedule was very, very favorable last year, right? I mean, you had Arkansas and Georgia were the tough ones in week 2 and week 3. But outside of that, you had Kentucky in week 6, and everybody else was a non-conference game. Like, you don't have that luxury this year. You have week 2 against Furman. Outside of that, bro, it's UNC out the gate with Drake May. It's Georgia in Athens. It's Mississippi State with Will Rogers. It's Tennessee with Joe Milton and Josh Heupel in Knoxville. It's the Florida Gators who, as porous as they're going to be this season, still feature a really, really good rushing attack. Like, you can't afford a slow start. You cannot. You absolutely cannot. Like, 2-4 is in the cards. It is. 2-4 could very well happen. I don't think worse than 3-3 is going to take place. I think 3-3 is the floor, but it could. And 3-3 is very much on the table. I mean, Georgia and Tennessee, boom, there's 2 losses right there. And I think we'd all agree a 4-2 start in the first 6 would be awesome. But 3-3 could happen, man. A loss to UNC or Mississippi State, yeah, that could happen. And if you don't have Juice Wells in week 1, I know he says he's great. I like what Lynn Turner said earlier. We know he's great, but when's he going to play? Right? I mean, so if that factor gets thrown in, and hey, we're only halfway through fall camp. Nobody's acting like it's DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 2 or DEFCON 1 or DEFCON whatever, but, as we get closer to the season, there's question marks with this football team. There's question marks with your best 22 available. There's question marks with your best 44 available. You start throwing in injuries, there's reason to be nervous, man. There's reason to be anxious about kickoff, about game 1 against UNC, a UNC team that features one of the best quarterbacks in college football. There's reasons to be anxious about that. You're not a slapdick fan or a doom and gloom or a find some joy or whatever the hell else you want to label it. You're just a normal fan. and never stop being a fan, bro. You're a fan. Fans should be fans. So I'm nervous, yes. I'm nervous for week 1. I'm nervous for this season. I've told you guys many times that comparing last year's team to this year's team, I felt better at this point last year. I did. I was higher on Spencer Rattler. I was high on Marshawn Lloyd in the running game. I was high on Jaheim Bell. I was high on Josh Vann. Felt pretty good about Juice Wells. Thought the offensive line with 130-plus returning starts. Cam Smith, Darius Rush at the corners. I mean, I thought I felt pretty good about last year's team. So there are, I think, double the question marks this year. I really believe that. There are double the question marks. Doesn't make you a slapdick fan. Doesn't make you doom and gloom. Just is what it is, man. There's question marks. So we'll see. We'll see. They could be answered in a very positive way. Can't wait. I'm very excited to start talking ball, start talking the UNC game, week 1. Can't wait. Can't wait to break it all down. Andy Rossway says, my biggest fear is a slow start, which if you look at year 1 and 2 of Beamer, both were slow starts. Can't afford that against UNC. Exactly. Andy, exactly. Year 1 was a slow start also. I mean, EIU, that was a scrimmage. East Carolina, you almost lose. Georgia, you get blown out. What was week 4 of year 1? What was week 4? I forget. What was after the Georgia game? I think it was like Troy. Was that the Troy game? I don't know. Either way, kind of a sluggish start. And then last year, again, last year is the exactly supports what we're talking about. You just can't. I mean, even Georgia State, you looked pitiful offensively. You look pitiful. Arkansas, you got pushed off the ball. Georgia, you got blown out. Even Charlotte and SC State were sloppy, man. Even those games were sloppy. So you just got to start faster. This team has got to be it's got to be a much more well-oiled machine by the time we get to week 1. It really does. Because you're not going to beat UNC not scoring 30 points. I just don't believe it. I don't believe it. You can say whatever you want about Drake May, and I think South Carolina has got to score 30 points. I think it's an offensive game. Now, I don't know if it quite hits the total. I don't know if it quite hits the total that Vegas has set, but it's a game where these quarterbacks are going to thrive. These defenses are. There's question marks. I trust South Carolina's defense more than UNC's, obviously. But I think both teams will get theirs. Both quarterbacks will get theirs. And, I think Chris Gordy said it well. You got to go blow for blow with Drake May and that UNC offense. So, yeah, Madison, can't wait for the postgame call-in show. Going to be an absolute blast. Going to be a lot of fun. And, maybe I shouldn't have spent so much time talking about, somebody labeling me a pessimist. But I just want to make it very clear where I stand, right? I don't – if you guys feel like I am leaning too far one way or too far the other, I want to make sure I'm really explaining myself and supporting my points to a degree where that I'm just being honest, right? Because that is the – while I'm not responsible for the way you feel about a take or what have you, I want to be real and genuine and authentic with my audience, and you guys know exactly where I'm coming from. I want you to know I'm shooting you straight. That is more importantly than anything. I want you to know that I'm being honest with you, shooting you straight. I'm not looking at things through a biased lens. I'm not looking at things through a jaded lens. We're looking at this thing right down the middle. That's just how I operate, and that's how I rock. So either way. A couple of questions. We'll close it out. Austin Gregory, are you expecting more calls after a win or a loss? 1,000% a loss. 1,000%. Austin Gregory, would the phone have rang more after 2022 Tennessee or Florida? It's sad, Austin, but Florida. A win, unless it's maybe Tennessee would have moved the needle to that degree. But unfortunately, Austin, the negative and losing, most of the time it moves the needle more. And again, look at my post-game videos from last year. The ones after wins, 1,000 or 2,000, couple thousand views. Oh, the ones after losses, 10,000, maybe more. People hit me up. Chris, say that. I can't wait to hear it. I got to hear it, man. You got to go in. You got to go in on this guy. You got to go in. Like, it just, Austin, that's the way it works, man. That's the way it works. So, but maybe folks will prove me wrong, Austin. I have no idea. Maybe folks will prove me wrong. So, final question. Jeff Golders, on the postgame call-in show, you decided if you're going to let quick to cut people off or let them go. I'm not going to try to cut people off, but like, yeah, we got to, get your point out in a minute or two and let's keep it moving because a lot of folks will want to call in. Good point, Jeff. Madison, appreciate you tuning in. Everybody else, thank y'all so much for the love, the support, man. Thank you to Chris Gordy of Locked On SEC. And again, cannot say thank y'all enough for tuning in to the show today. Be sure to hit that subscribe button, hit that bell icon so you get notifications when we drop new video content, when we go live as well. And be sure, guys, head over to iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast, at The Spurs Up Show. We drop the show every single day, 5 p.m. Eastern. You can check out the podcast there as well. Guys, hey, appreciate you all tuning in. Thank you all so much. Have a great rest of your Monday, and we will talk to you all tomorrow.